We are live. Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. My name is Kevin Castley, and tonight we're taking a bit of a different tone. We're talking about some different stuff. The previous streams that I've been doing have been focused on the coronavirus pandemic, the communist virus out of Red China. However, tonight we've got some news from the socialist side of things. That's finally some good news. Some good news. So for those of you who have been following it, you will be aware that Bernie Sanders, Breadline Bernie, has he's officially suspended his campaign. But for all intents and purposes, he's done, son. Breadline Bernie's done, son. Absolutely done. Absolutely done. Now, and we'll go through this. We'll go through this a bit later in the stream. I'm going to talk for a few more minutes here. We got a full panel lined up tonight, everybody. We got a full panel. We're already joined in the studio, and they'll come in shortly. We are joined by Anthony Roberto, Base Talk. We're joined by Nightmare Fuel. You all know Nightmare Fuel. We're joined by Henry of American Madhouse, formerly of American Empire. We got Progressive Apostate in here. And pretty soon, we are hopefully going to be joined by Jay of the War Cattle. So we got a full lineup tonight. This is going to be based. So this has been a long time coming. As Anthony was joking earlier on in the studio, and we'll let him go with the I'll save that joke for him, of course. But he had an absolutely lit line about the sort of time period that we've been dealing with. But I'll save that for Anthony. He can deliver that one. But here's the deal. We have been waiting for this for a long time. This has been something since basically, 2015, 2016. And it's finally happened. Bernie will not be running again in 2024. It's over. He's too old. Even the Young Turks, even those guys admitted it, that this was his last gambit, and it's over. And Emma Vigeland today was crying about it. We had lots of tears. We had lots of rage. We had lots of sad feels on the part of the bros, the Bernie bros, the Chapo bros, the tankies. All the cringe mongers and yikes lords. We're up to 12 people already. Thank you all for being here. Like I said, we got a full panel here tonight. We are going to go to them very shortly. I just want to say quickly here, though, that Bernie Sanders is somebody who he often gets an undue amount of respect, I find, from people who say admire his consistency, or they'll say, well, he is a fighter or whatnot, or you have to give them this, you have to give him that, or whatever. Or you'll see people now say, well, he did the right thing and he came out and he's going to get behind Biden. And I just want to point out here, we're dunking on him because it's over. We've known it's been over for a little while now, but it's good that it's concrete. It's set, right? These are the sorts of moments that we can take in pride and glory, and we can take the opportunity to dunk on our opponents and our enemies, and that's always worth it, right? That's always lots of fun. I was planning on streaming tonight. We were going to talk about the personal finance and the economic angles more specifically and more in detail of the coronavirus. That's going to be for a later stream. We got some good news. And, in this time when things are depressing, people around us are dying, we've got this pandemic overcome our nations. It is such a good thing that the most prominent socialist who had a chance, at least initially, to become the president of the most powerful country in the West, the most powerful country in the world, that will never be happening. And that's brilliant. That is something that, this, even though we are still very clearly in the era of cringe turned slightly less cringe tonight, my friends, today. And for that, we're all here to ultimately take this opportunity, as I said, to bask in the glory of the moment. And, we got some base talks here, and we're going to turn to them. We've got 15 people viewing right now. Thank you for being with Superpower Broadcasting. Let's introduce the panel. So here we go. We are going to add everybody here, and then there we go. There we go. We got the lineup all set up. I'm pretty new to StreamYard still, but there we go. Welcome everybody. How's everybody doing?
All right.
Amazing. I'll be the one to say amazing.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
It is. It's great. I mean, because as I said, earlier on, we've had some very bad news from socialist China. We had some very good news from socialist Bernard. So we got Bernie. He's out of the race now. Except that's the thing. He didn't officially endorse Biden. He's already said that he's going to stay in and still accrue delegates, which is kind of I know people have been giving him credit and saying, that it was good of Bernie to do this. Even Joe Biden was like, I got to earn your voters, but I appreciate the sentiment. And it's like, but Bernie hasn't really endorsed Biden.
Well, no. I mean, he'll endorse him at the convention probably, but
Right.
none of them they drop out, which means they stop their campaigns, they stop collecting donations. But like if you voted, you saw the ballot, everyone's name was still on the ballot. Like the names don't like come off the ballot once they qualified.
That's a result of suspending and not officially dropping out.
And everyone suspends. I mean, like it's
because
I don't think there's
it looks
anyone
bad. I mean, that's the political theory surrounding that. It looks bad to say I drop out officially versus I suspend.
Well, no, I mean they say that they drop out, suspend, whatever. I don't know if it's a technical thing or if they think maybe if it's hung at the convention, they have delegates, they can negotiate. I don't know. Like that would be the theory for the earlier candidates, at least, who dropped out before the major candidates were done. Like you say someone like Pete Buttigieg, he had a few delegates. So when he left, maybe it goes to a convention and it's contested. He's got some negotiation power. So there's that kind of thinking I think goes into it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, we'll go to you, Anthony. Beside the point.
We'll go to you, Anthony, because I was alluding to you earlier on in my intro there that you had a really good line about a time period between 4 and 6.
Oh, right. Yeah. So when it comes to Bernie Sanders, like all 5-year plans, they end up failing.
Womp, womp, womp.
Well, they didn't work during the Soviet Union. They didn't work for the Soviets. Ask the Kazakhs or the Ukrainians how they feel about 5-year plans.
North Korea.
They didn't work out.
The North Koreans, they're like, my 5-year plans, bro. My economy, bro. It's like, dude, 40 of your citizens can't equal one South Korean citizen. The 5-year plans aren't working, bro. It's like it ain't working for Bernie. Bernie did, and this is really worth noting here for all the people that say that Biden's Hillary 2.0 and Hillary lost to Trump and all this stuff and everything. It's like Bernie lost harder to Biden than he lost to Clinton. I like Clinton more personally, but Joe Biden, you gotta give some big credit to Joe Biden because it could have been a closer race, but Joe Biden, I mean, look at how divided the field was. Look at how vitriolic it was. Joe Biden absolutely kicked ass. So
yeah, that's what's kind of amazing to me about you see people saying that and taking that point of view. When you look, if you go to Joe Biden's website and you look at like his policy, because this is what the Bernie people say is look at the policies. Oh my God, we voted on policy. Well, Joe Biden's the most progressive candidate in U.S. history. According purely to his policies, you can say, well, maybe he won't get that done or he doesn't mean it or whatever. But when you look at what he's proposing, his healthcare plan isn't really any different from what they have in Canada or the UK or these nations that they want to support. Bernie's was more extreme than anything in the world. Like nowhere in the world is private healthcare illegal. Like that's that's kind of crazy. And so he is the most progressive candidate on all these issues, which is what's kind of mind-boggling. And I think some of them can be convinced of this. Others won't. Like people that like listen unironically to Kyle Kulinski will never be convinced of this. They think Joe Biden's a conservative, even though he's literally the most progressive candidate in the history of the United States.
Reality disagrees.
Right.
It's
Well,
like
I
I think that there's a portion of them. I'm hoping it's more than 50%, but I don't really know. Like it's hard to tell because you have like the commentators. Like Kyle Kulinski, obviously never going to convince him. Like today, he called Biden a rapist and a war criminal. Ridiculous, crazy shit. But then you also, encouragingly though, you had Cenk Uygur who seemed to be kind of begrudgingly saying he's going to support Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So it's like you have these two. So there's even a division within the what did they call themselves? The Justice Democrats. So, and I'm hoping that they're greater than 50%. I don't know how many of them are more Kyle or more Cenk. And it's sad to me that Cenk is on the more reasonable end of the spectrum.
Right.
That tells
Hey,
you
guys.
so much.
Just like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it tells
Hey,
you
guys.
so much.
Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War and TPP. Are you guys gonna vote for him?
He voted for the Iraq
yeah.
War. He voted for the Iraq
Oh, no.
War. You're telling me he was against dictators and genocide and gassing civilians? What a
terrible-
scumbag! What
terrible.
a scumbag!
Even Vaush, even Vaush said that he was going to basically tell his subscriber base to vote
Yeah.
for Biden in the general.
Vote blue no matter who.
And when he looks like the reasonable one in this situation, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I
Oh,
forgot
yeah.
about Vaush. That was
Yeah.
shocking to me, that Vaush. 'Cause
Yeah.
I did see that, and I was shocked by that.
I
That Kulinski is more unreasonable than Vaush really shocked me. And that made me convince me that Kulinski really has no ideology. He's in it for fucking, I don't know, sensationalism and money. And maybe Vaush
Yeah.
is more like, he actually has more principles than I would have thought.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
honestly.
no, objectively.
Absolutely.
Because for
Objectively,
him to say that is going to hurt him.
Oh, big time.
Like with the
Time.
subscribers and the audience he's amassed, that's going to hurt him. Saying like, look, guys, honestly, yeah, this sucks. Our guy lost or whatever, but Biden is 100 times better and more in line with what we're saying than Trump. That's going to fucking hurt that dude. So
No.
at least he has some principles.
Kevin,
You-
I just want to let you know quickly.
Yeah.
Jay says he's here, so if you want to add him to the stream,
Yeah, no,
just,
I
giving you a heads
I
up.
sent the link out twice to him. He will be here shortly. He just woke up. I'm glad that he made it up in time. But the thing is, and he's welcome to join in at any point. So we're going to have a full panel here. The thing that I wanted to say with all this, though, is that, when we're talking about Vaush, I actually watched about half an hour of his stream earlier today. I wanted to see his perspective on this and what, credit where credit is due. If you asked me before today, whose base was going to be different on this? Was it going to be some of Kyle's base being for Bernie and some of his base being, okay, well, we got to endorse Biden now because you got to defeat Trump? Or would you say that it would be the case with Vaush? I would have said probably more, it would be Kyle who'd be more likely to say, well, I'm against Trump and we did our best, but you got to bite the bullet here and you got to pick the lesser evil. I would have expected Kyle to say that more. But Vaush went in that direction, even though it's objectively, I think, the case that Kyle's base is more social democratic and Vaush's base is
They're
actual
communist.
socialist. Yeah, communist.
Yeah, that's what gets me, man. Is like you have someone like Kyle, which is it's astounding to me because even if you are like a communist, a straight up communist, just on a pragmatic level, it makes more sense to vote for Joe Biden. He's closer to what you want to achieve. But in Vaush, an actual communist recognizes this.
Yeah.
And Kulinski either doesn't or doesn't care because he wants the views. And that's why I say Kulinski has proven he has no fucking principles. Vaush, at least, I think, believes what he says and is trying to accomplish it. Whereas Kulinski, it seems to me, he's about money and views and sensationalism.
And being a contrarian.
Yeah, contrarian, exactly.
I know. I know the other thing too is because I remember on Super Tuesday I watched all the streams from TYT to Nick Fontes I watched everyone's stream for Super Tuesday because I wanted everyone's crazy take on it. And one thing that Vaush said on Super Tuesday was, at the end of the day, I want to defeat Trump. I mean, this is one thing that Vaush has been saying for the longest time. This is why he's actually got canceled by other RedTube people, because people like Sean, they're like, yeah, you're bourgeois, man. So, like,
What?
I'm not even kidding.
Oh,
I'm not even
man.
kidding. Look, I mean, the bread tube is so split. They're like Vosh is like some neo-lib, neocon. Like it's insane.
Neocon.
It
Wow.
actually,
He's
it's
a
insane.
neocon.
It's insane. No,
Imagine
I
how
wish
off
I
the
was
deep end
joking.
you have to be to call Vouch a freaking neo-lib.
He's
bourgeois,
Well,
man.
Vouch
these
also,
people,
Vouch also
these
said
people
that
probably don't even vote anyways. Like, let's
That's
be
true.
real.
That's true. No,
Have these people even registered?
well, to Henry's
Doubtful.
point about this, because Henry, you were making the point that if you are somebody who's of Vouch's political persuasion in terms of the policy aims, you would pick Biden even if you disagree with him on 90%, say, because and it's not that much, but as you point out, Biden is actually pretty progressive, but over Trump, who you have less in common. But there is a segment of the left that would pick Trump because they want the system to burn down so that they can do their little revolution, like they're the mug-accelerationism and shit like that. And I guess that's where Kyle's base is now. But
Well,
it's just
I
funny
think
to me
it's the
that
difference
Kyle's
between
base-
like anti-establishment versus like anti. It comes down to like where they hate the fucking establishment and they view it as all the same, Democrat or Republican, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They don't see the difference, which there's a large difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah.
And smart people on either side should be able to recognize that based on the views that they have. There was something that you said earlier, Henry, that I thought was worth latching onto. When people say that this is Hillary 2.0, that Joe Biden is a Republican, they don't understand. Yeah, he is the most progressive candidate. He's adopted some of their policies, even if he doesn't act on these and he just says that he believes in them. Imagine how normalized a view like free college becomes when it's being exposed to a new base of supporters.
Even if you think about it, like they're saying the problem with this is Joe Biden's not going to get it done. He's not going to get that because his healthcare system, as far as I can tell, looks like what they have going on in Canada or the UK or other European nations. And they're saying, well, he's never going to achieve that. Well, if he can't achieve this more moderate, more like proven system that's worked in other places, how is Bernie Sanders going to get this radical thing that really hasn't been implemented anywhere? Like what he's proposing exists nowhere. It's not what they have in Denmark or Norway. The shit he's proposing, it's totally different. Like, and if Biden can't get the more moderate version done, how the fuck do you think Bernie's going to get the more radical version done?
I think you're just bourgeois, Henry. You're just bourgeois.
Yeah, it could be it.
Oh man,
the thing that drives me crazy about them saying things like Biden is a conservative and all that, because, like, for example, people are saying, they say, oh, like he would veto Medicare for all, and if he's not for Medicare for all, he may as well be a conservative. I don't think they are real. I don't think they realize how difficult something like healthcare reform is. Just as an example, like passing the Affordable Care Act was like a monumental moment in like American politics, and now less than a decade later, they're like, fuck that shit. That's bourgeois conservative shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Obamacare was pretty bad. I mean, there were some good aspects to it, but ultimately it was not good. Like keeping your kids on your healthcare plan until they're 26, that's pretty good. Other aspects, it did increase coverage, but like the whole thing where they like punished people for not having healthcare via taxation, that's pretty fucked up, I think.
I mean, sure. There's just like problems with the Affordable Care Act itself. It's just the idea behind. It's the idea that reform and getting things done in Washington is not easy, and I don't know what they think that if like Bernie gets elected, he's just going to be able to enact all of these policies. Like it's just not.
That's what makes it interesting with the ACA. It seems like a conglomeration, a hodgepodge of all these different competing ideas, because that's what it was, because that's what it really looks like when a bill goes through Congress. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. A lot of them were conservative. A good amount of them were liberals, and it.
Oh,
Did we lose?
Yeah.
Reese
No,
again?
Audio
Him
dropped.
already.
his audio intermittently drops like this. It happens in the streams. He'll be back shortly, and then we'll let him continue. I just want to say here, it is funny to me how I was watching Emma Vigeland. She put out a video today. It was like 6 minutes, and she was crying about, literally crying over how she's like, Bernie isn't going to run again. It's over, and all this. And if I recall, she made the point that in her view, Biden is far more conservative than Hillary Clinton was, and I just find that kind of funny because as you guys
Insane.
No.
as you guys are right, to point out, the Biden campaign has it, like, it's not just rhetoric. They have platform-wise actually adopted some of Bernie's proposals on top of Biden already himself being one of the more progressive people. I mean, he was one of the youngest senators ever elected. He was basically like the AOC of his time, and super young, progressive kind of guy back then. And yet, to them, he's a white shitlord, and it's like it's just amazing to me.
Well, I would say if you're comparing like his past views, which they do a lot, yeah, he was more conservative in the past. Like everyone was. But I mean, if you're looking at his current platform and policies, and this is where they pit him up against Bernie, and they're like, Bernie was always super progressive. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, people change their minds and platforms, and maybe Biden's doing it for just to get elected or whatever. But if he's actually going to try and implement the stuff, he's still, like, based on his stated policy proposals, he's the most progressive candidate that has ever been a Democratic nominee, fucking ever, including Barack Obama. Like,
I wish we brought back Joe Biden's 1996 foreign policy platform, but sadly that probably won't come around.
Yes. Oh man, I hope you're right,
yeah.
Anthony. I hope that he goes on.
I think his
attack Trump on the Hawk side and say, you opposed the Iraq War. I was for the liberation. I don't think that'll happen.
No way.
But that would be base. That would be base. Like if Trump called him out on it. I don't think that Biden would start it, but if Trump called him out on it and Biden defended his record, that would be absolutely base, because he'd be like, dude, you want to surrender to the Taliban? I kick Saddam's ass. You're not qualified to be the leader. That would be base.
I think if anything, if Trump attacked him on that, you'd probably see something kind of cringy from Biden, where he started attacking Trump based on his record of like, well, you did strikes in Syria and you pulled out of the Iran deal.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It would have been that.
That's how that's going to go down, honestly, because you know what American public opinion on these issues are.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he would implement this stuff. I expect his foreign policy would be similar to Obama's, probably.
So when is the actual election? When's the big day? Biden, the man that I said since day one was going to win this. When is my boy Biden going to kick Donald Trump's ass? That's what I want.
November 3rd,
you and Reese have both been on this from day one. You guys both said. I remember Reese too. He was like, no, it's going to be Biden.
He was always the front runner. So I wouldn't give my prediction too much credit, but it was a very split field, and for a while it looked like Sanders was running away with it.
Well,
and that's especially why they feel so cheated now. Look at the rhetoric from these people. Oh my God, we were robbed. Oh,
we've been robbed in 2 elections.
Robbed.
We were robbed on Bloody Monday.
Robbery.
Robbery, Kevin. Oh my God.
Robbery. It was an evil DNC rig.
That's what Kyle said today. He said, "I'll never forget Bloody Monday. I'll never forgive and never forget."
Like he thinks it's going to be like a monumental moment in that's going to be in all the history books.
Bloody Monday.
No,
dude, Bloody Monday. That sounds like something that sounds like something where like the SAR guns down like 5,000 protesters or something. And it's like, no, that was just the day that Pete and Amy endorsed Biden. Like it's just
guys.
So here's
the real question.
There's 2 dates that you have to remember in history. July 4th, 1776, and March 3rd, 2020. Those are the 2 dates in American history that you should remember.
Okay.
So Oh man, we need a holiday. We made to make like a holiday of that, like Bloody Monday. Bloody Monday.
Right, so every year, tweet at Kyle, "Happy Bloody Monday, fucker!"
Happy Bloody Monday. And like you tell your kids, like your kids are growing up, and they're just like, "Wait, why do we celebrate a day named Bloody Monday?" And you're like, "Well, it was only bloody for a Russian cow. It wasn't bloody for anybody else. It was just bloody. It was the day that Kremlin Kyle, the Russian cow, the dude who grazes in their crop fields now, it was the day that he was taken to the slaughterhouse.
Now he's a red heifer.
So the real question is how did we manage to manipulate this to rig it that Bernie lost? Because that's all coming. The Democrats did something because they can't win fairly.
I don't know about you guys. I drove in truckloads of illegal immigrants from the border and stuffed the ballot boxes with Biden votes.
There you go.
In Texas, that's how I did it. I don't know what you guys did. I did.
I know for a fact how they rigged it. The DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, and a bunch of the other Democratic establishment got together and they coughed up some cash and they went to Wuhan and they went to the biochemical lab there and they gave the Chinese some cash to create the COVID.
And also they got and it's also transmitted with the 5G radars.
Exactly. and then that's how they got the election for Biden. Otherwise, Bernie was going to win by 95% at the convention.
Kevin, wait, you're missing one part though. Pete Buttigieg, the CIA Blackwater plot, right? Well, remember that?
And the Mossad.
The Mossad.
They're always involved.
Of course.
And the MIT.
We're not going to talk about the COVID or Corona, but like it is kind of weird because this is kind of any other time this would have been major news, and like I saw it as like a passing thing where I kind of forgot about the primaries. I saw some people tweeting like, "Oh, Bernie dropped out. Democratic primaries over." And I was like, "Holy shit! Oh, I forgot that's still happening." Okay, and then like I went home and I turned on the news and was flipping through like Fox, MSNBC, CNN. And no one was talking about it. It was like all about this fucking virus. I was like, this is a weird fucking time, man, where this is any other time that would be the news story of the day. And fucking no one cared, basically. Because, it's been over since at least Super Tuesday 2. I would say Super Tuesday 2 was the nail in the coffin. Because, like, you could say, Super Tuesday 1, it was... statistically unlikely. After the second, it was just like this is.
No, you're right. You're right. We got comment in the chat here. I just want to go to Nicholas 18769. He says Biden as Hillary 2.0 is a sales pitch for me, and I agree with that. And then we have Mycroft Holmes here. He says, greatest Coke take I had today was people blaming Pete and Amy. So the Bloody Monday thing from Kyle. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, like that's long been one of my criticisms of the base that Bernie helped radicalize is they take these very innocuous, normal things like candidates with no chance and no money dropping out, endorsing the person they agree the most with. And they turn that into just like a national tragedy. And it's like, what is even the point of debating people like that? Like, what is the point of trying to obviously try to reach out to more reasonable Bernie voters who understand the importance of SCOTUS and things like that? But Kyle, hell no. That you would never, ever convince him that anything was important besides his own agenda.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's crazy, guys? What were the kind of endorsements that Bernie Sanders got? He got what, like million? What was it?
Castro from the grave.
Yeah, Castro from the grave. That other lunatic,
Marianne Williamson.
Williamson, there we go. Like all these stupid endorsements, like come on, man. Like all like Nita Turner, like Linda Sarsour, like all these just crapshoots, and it's like, who did Biden get?
There's another person that's worth mentioning is I'm sure we've talked about her on here, but Brianna Joy Gray was one of his top staffers. Today she admitted to being a fan of socialism. Very,
she had the
very
best
interesting.
tweets. She had the best tweet. She said today, well, the good thing about this is that I get to drop the democratic from democratic socialism and just be straight up socialism now. And I tweeted at her and I said, well, you also need to take the part out of your bio about how you're working for the next president of the United States, because that's never going to happen. So
got her.
I'm kind of interested now to see, because now that we've basically moved into the general election at this point, there's a lot of interesting shit to see going forward, which for me, one is who's Biden's running mate going to be. I feel like that'll be announced closer to the convention after this whole corona thing hopefully is dying off. And then the third parties, because that could be a factor again with both, Trump's very divisive and Bernie. Obviously, that was a factor last time. Not a major factor. It wasn't like with Ross Perot or something. But you had Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, which took several percentage points worth of votes. I don't know if it was in the key states or if it really made a difference, but there were definitely people that blamed Jill Stein voters. And even, some people went for Gary Johnson, even from the left and the right too, probably. So I wonder what the Green Party and the Libertarians, who they're going to put forward this time.
I saw who the Green Party put up. I what's his name again? It's like Harry Hemlock or something.
I'm not sure.
No one nearly as notable as Stein.
Yeah, I can't believe they're not putting up Jill Stein. She's like the legend of the Green Party.
Yeah, didn't she get how much of a percentage? She got 2% or something?
2 or 3%, yeah.
Yeah, it was significant. I mean, small, but...
I feel like, though, with the black turnout, and especially with other ethnic minorities turning out for Joe Biden, I think he has a real shot this time, though, because if you think about it, look at Virginia. More people voted in the primaries for that election than for Bernie and Hillary put together for 2016 during the primaries. So, obviously, Biden is getting more vote, just population-wise for voters.
Yeah,
so more voters are coming out for him. And if we see that for November, I think he's got a pretty decent shot.
As far as his running mate, I just wanted to say in response to your question about the running mate, I think the real savvy pick, because I know that Kamala Harris and Amy Klobuchar are the favorites right now. I think Gretchen Whitmer would be the savvy pick.
See, I was going to say Kamala Harris because she's more prominent. She was in the race, and I thought she was going to be that from the beginning because she dropped out very early for how much support she had, and maybe her funding wasn't there. I don't really know, but she had she was doing well when she dropped out. And also, Biden wants to win the black vote. If you get the black turnout up, he can win. And that's part of the thing with Hillary was popular with black voters. Well, yeah, he does because he was Obama's VP. But also, it would help to have a black woman on the ticket, I think. But I don't know. They're probably weighing all that shit and have very smart people doing the calculations there. But she was always, I thought, the natural pick for him. They're ideologically not that far off. And he said it's going to be a woman. So there's only or was it him or was it Bernie that said that?
I know some people were... Yeah. Oh, sorry. Just real quick. I think there were some people that were kind of fearful that he's going to pick Elizabeth Warren. I don't think he's going to pick Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, no fucking way.
There's people that are fearing about that. And it's she hasn't even endorsed him. Why would they ever? No, that.
You're not going to pick someone that's your ideological opposite. That makes no sense.
Right.
My rationale for saying that Biden should pick Whitmer is that I think that the black turnout for Biden I think will generally be high either way, and I think that picking Whitmer would help him secure Michigan, because isn't she very popular in Michigan, Anthony?
It's it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, in my county and the surrounding counties, she's pretty popular right now. But she is a little bit mixed in some ways with some of her policies. Well, I know she fixed some of the roads, so I don't know, maybe that will boost her up though. But
there goes the libertarian vote.
Yeah. There goes
My roads.
well, because the roads here are really shit in Michigan. So like, she promised to actually fix the roads, which is that's actually one of her big campaign promises when she was running for governor. I'm not even joking. Was to fix the roads. I mean, I voted for her in 2018. I felt like she was a fair representative for our democracy here in our state. But I don't know. I mean, she might. I mean, I don't know if it would bring around Michigan because I feel like even Amy could bring Michigan. You know, like I don't know if you need specifically Whitmer to do that.
Also, they don't have to be running mates. He could have these people on his cabinet and shit like that.
Yeah,
which I think
right.
I said that from the beginning. He'll make cabinet deals. Maybe you'll see Pete Buttigieg in there somewhere. Possibly. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, getting Yang in there. That'd be fucking sweet for me. Give him a job doing. I don't even fucking really care what he does. Just throw him in there to get him more political credit.
Can we put Nikki Haley back in the UN?
Oh man. I mean,
I know she's a conservative, but like,
I think she's done with that though. I think that ship sailed.
No, can you imagine though, like if Joe Biden gets somebody like Mitt Romney in his cabinet? Like, I would love to see Mitt Romney as like Secretary of State or something. I know it wouldn't happen, but if it did happen and he said that going into the election, like, hey, look, if you pick me, I'm gonna have somebody like a Mitt Romney be, you know, Secretary of State or something. He would be able to win over a lot of disillusioned Republicans. But I'm gonna go to the gun shark here. He says Bernie, because they're talking about Bernie's endorsements. Bernie was endorsed by Daniel Ortega.
Yeah.
I don't know about Mitt Romney being a cabinet member, but I do think maybe, and I kind of hope that he'll endorse Biden. That's a possibility, I think.
Yeah. Actually, that could happen. So what my theory is for Mitt Romney is like either he will secretly vote for Joe Biden, or as you said, Henry, he will openly endorse them. So there's two options there.
I'll take the endorsement over the secret vote.
He'll openly endorse him. He already said that he doesn't believe that Donald Trump is fit to be president, and that he violated.
He voted to impeach him.
He voted to impeach him publicly. No,
right, so there is that endorsement, right? So that could happen.
I hope, you know, I mean, if I were Joe Biden, I know that there's a lot of, you know, that there's a lot of bad feels between him and Harris. I think that Harris would be probably the best pick for VP. Obviously, if I were Joe Biden and I was going to pick somebody, and I already stated it had to be a woman, I would pick Nikki Haley, but there's no way that he would pick Nikki Haley to be VP. But she's pretty hawkish, and she's pretty good on like Israel and stuff like that. But
yeah, Harris marks. I mean, with the VP, it's less about what they think and more. Well, I mean, it is a bit, I guess, because they do have a vice presidential debate. But I think with the VP, it's more about optics, and you know, she's a woman and a woman of color, which helps out. You know, even though this is like it's shit that shouldn't matter, but it actually does.
That's the political game. I still think that he might not pick Harris because he doesn't want to take a senator out of Congress.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's calculation too. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, because when people were throwing up, you know, obviously Warren or Harris, and I think it's being a senator is a big deal in this country. Yeah. So I think he'd more go for maybe a governor.
But I would think Harris's district well, it's not district, state. She's from California, right? I think it would go Democrat even after she left anyway. But it wouldn't have someone with the same amount of... she obviously has a value that someone else in Senate wouldn't have.
Yeah, she's like a household name to a large degree that other politicians just aren't.
But, you know, it's funny. We were talking about, you know, who would be best to help Biden carry like a place like Michigan or something. I think that, you know, regardless of who he chooses, even if he picks somebody from, say, California or he picks somebody from Florida, I think that Biden's going to win the Rust Belt against Trump, you know, because Biden beat Bernie there very thoroughly in the states that it had gone. And Trump narrowly won those states against Clinton. I think Biden's got an advantage actually going in on that. Now we'll see how the campaign goes, but
Actually, so to that, Kevin, I've been debating about this with people in chats and whatnot. I think there's a 50-50 chance of Joe Biden winning Michigan, and a couple of reasons. So for one, Trump obviously promised to bring back automotive jobs to Michigan. So I maybe some of you guys might remember that, but he said that. That never really happened. We never really actually opened up a lot of factories back here. So there's a lot of disillusioned Trump voters. Because there's a lot of people that voted for him because he said he was going to promise to bring back the industrial jobs, which really didn't happen. Like we brought back like a couple of like Ford factories, but like it's really not enough. But I think the other thing is
Trump fucked over all of his supporters, not just in the Rust Belt. Every promise he made, he broke.
Right.
Like he lowered taxes, but he didn't build this fucking giant wall that they wanted. He didn't fucking the biggest thing he did for them, the type of shit that the common working man would have wanted, was get out of NAFTA and do USMCA. So he did that, but I mean, I think you fucked over a lot of them, and all of those people's lives are about to get a lot worse if they're not worse already. And whether they can blame this on Trump or not, with response to Corona, they fucking will probably. Like when it comes down to it, their lives suck. Maybe they'll want change, which it's not good that their lives are shitty for maybe reasons that are unavoidable. Like you could always Monday morning quarterback it and say, well, he could have done this or that, but this outbreak might have happened under any administration, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even with
you have to consider that Trump might perform bad in the Rust Belt, but there are a lot of people, because of other conservative values they have or may hold, they don't care. They really don't. I don't know the number that you could ascribe to that, but there are people who they have been fucked over by Trump and they are going to vote for him again. And that is the percentage to beat, really.
I mean, I think it's also important to remember, like in 2016, even with all of the promises to bring back the like the automobile, like all those jobs, like get out of NAFTA, all that stuff, he barely eked out Michigan. He won by like less than 1% margin, if I remember.
Well, right. So this is why I'm saying like there's a 50-50 chance. Obviously the economy here in Michigan's kind of gone down the drain with Trump. So I think a lot of people blame the president. Well, and other things too. But I mean, of course, it's not necessarily his fault, but people will put that together like that. I think the other thing too is when it comes to Joe Biden, I think there's a lot more people who are enthused because every single county went to Joe Biden here, which didn't happen last time. So I do think he's got a pretty good shot. I think the thing is he has to go after vulnerable counties. He has to make sure he picks up the counties that he has a pretty good chance. Don't campaign in counties that you're going to do well in. Make sure you try to get those counties that you can edge off in. So he's just got to be very strategic where he goes and where he campaigns and does speeches. So that's why I got to say that. And that also includes for Minnesota and for Pennsylvania.
I just can't wait for him to take the office. It's going to be an amazing day.
Yeah, there will be different kinds of tiers.
Right.
Jay seems very confident. I'm reasonably confident that he would put up a better fight than Hillary did, and Hillary put up a pretty good fight on.
Yeah, it was close. Well, he also doesn't have the decades of like conservative attacks against him that Hillary did. Like she was the fucking devil. Like if you think about it on the other side, it would be like if Dick Cheney was running or something. Like that's the way they viewed Hillary, as the way the left views Dick Cheney. So it's like, and even a lot of the left hated her. Honestly, I mean, we saw that. I don't think the same thing. Like the worst things they're saying about Biden is like, oh, he's old and he doesn't remember stuff and he has gaffes and he's senile or whatever. That's nothing compared to what they were saying about Hillary. I mean, well, excluding Kyle Kulinski, who's calling him a rapist and a war criminal, and no one takes that seriously. But there was a large amount of people taking the shit seriously, like with the And some of it was like Russian propaganda where they're like, Hillary's going to start World War III and Hillary hates black people. And they're like, Hillary, Benghazi and emails and just like all this shit. And you're not seeing that now. What you're seeing with Biden is like, oh, he's old. And oh, God, he mispronounced a word. And he fumbled a sentence. And it's nothing like what they were saying about Hillary.
I think he's also a much more sympathetic figure too. Like, this is a guy who's gone through a lot of personal tragedy in his life.
I think, and I agree with something that was said earlier, that I prefer Clinton to Biden in a lot of ways, but a criticism of Clinton often was that she seemed inhuman. It seemed a little distant and cold, and you don't have that with Biden. He seems like a very personable guy. He likes ice cream. He wears aviators. That's the image people see. They see Joe Biden. He's always smiling. He's so upbeat. And they're trying to like portray him, not Sleepy Joe, but like who with above a room temperature IQ is going to fall for that? That is not a valid attack.
Sleepy Joe, I gotta say, Sleepy Joe is one of the lamest and the most snoring and boring nicknames that Donald Trump has ever coined, because he said some bangers of a nickname. I mean, I thought that Low Energy Jeb was a banger. I thought, Lil Marco was pretty good. It's simple, but it stuck. But Sleepy Joe, like, he could have, like, honestly, if I was advising Trump, I would have said, go with something more provocative. Go with Creepy Joe. Like, Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe is just weak. It's just there's a part of me that thinks that he didn't put any energy into it at all, and
I'm excited.
Did you just assume that Trump puts effort into anything he ever does?
No, the one thing, his nicknames.
Pocahontas was a good nickname. I like Pocahontas.
The one thing that he puts effort into is like the reality TV show. It's the circus clown stuff, like the nicknames. He's got like the branding. He does like a lot of the image and stuff and everything. Puts energy into that. He doesn't put energy in other stuff, but he didn't put energy into this, and that, to me, like, obviously he can't start calling him Creepy Joe now, because it's going to make it look like, oh, well, you admit that you came up with a bad nickname. Then, like, he has to stick to it. But just he could have done a better nickname against him, because Low Energy Jeb was a big factor in what tanked Jeb's campaign ultimately, and Jeb's response to it, putting an exclamation mark after his first name on all the slogans and signs and stuff, was obvious that it got under his skin, and so that
Jeb came off like such a pussy in all of their exchanges. It was so sad.
You know what's gonna be really funny though, to see Trump try to debate Joe Biden. I don't know if do you guys think Trump will debate Joe Biden very well? Like, what do you guys think?
It depends on what you mean by well, I guess. Like, I mean, well, could he be effective? I could see it going a couple ways. Like, it depends on how good Joe is on his game, which admittedly he is old, and he does like fumble words and things and stuff like that. But also, like, I mean, I think he might handle it better than Hillary did. Possibly, like, because we all know what Trump's going to do. He's going to insult him and say all this shit, but he also doesn't have as much ammunition to go after him on. He's not going to say, like, we need to lock Joe Biden up in jail. Like, what could he possibly say about that? Which everyone thought, Hillary's this criminal, evil person. Or not everyone, obviously. I mean the right.
A good amount of people.
Yeah.
Trump can't portray himself as the outsider anymore. I know that a lot of the progressives don't think that that's significant. They think that that's a weak projection of what the general election would look like. But I think that that's a big factor. The fact that we've had, it's not candidate Donald Trump. It is president for 4 years Donald Trump.
He has a record to attack.
People are fucking sick of this guy. A good amount of people hate him even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's got a record. He has a record you can actually attack, which he didn't before. Before, it was just him criticizing people doing these jobs when he had never done anything like it. And so there was nothing they could say in response. Like, he could say, oh, you did this, and you fumbled that, and you fucked that up. Now they can throw all of his shit back at him because he has an actual political record they can attack. That's going to be a detriment to him.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I just want to go to Taylor Hawkins in the chat. He says, personally, I think Trump will refuse to debate. I disagree with that. I think that Trump's all about like the wrestling and the reality TV. He likes the big spectacles. I think he's going to go and debate, and I think he's going to try a lot of the similar stuff to that he did against Hillary Clinton, and I don't think it's going to stick in the same way against Biden. Like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna be like, sleepy Joe Biden, wrong, and he's gonna say like, all this stuff about him and everything, and it's like, it's as you guys are saying, it's not going to work. And the other thing is that, unlike before, where now Trump has a record as well. Now they both have a record. Biden has the kind of record that. Obviously, if you're somebody who's on the right, you're going to probably take issue with him. But like Henry was pointing out, there wasn't the same campaign waged for 30 years to slander Biden's name in the same way, or even Obama's name, because if Biden ties himself to Obama, that helps him win over some people on the left. But it's not going to necessarily have the same effect with the people on the right who were all about the Obama phones memes and how Obama was going to kill your grandma and stuff. They don't remember.
Don't forget the FEMA camps Obama was going to set up.
Yeah, they're not going to remember Biden the same way as they would in Obama. He's not going to have the stigma to them of an Obama in that sense per se. But he can use it as an asset on the left, because the people on the right that aren't going to like him over Obama already aren't going to like him anyway. But we got 30 people here right now, so I just want to say thank you everybody for being with us. So
I also think Biden he's conducted himself in a much better way. Like Hillary said some things about the people supporting Trump, which I think is a terrible move. And Biden hasn't done that. Biden has been very gracious and magnanimous, and like even with Bernie resigning, he said, Bernie's contributed. He's been this, and I think that's the appropriate thing to do. Like us as YouTubers and Twitter people, we can talk all the shit we want, but like as the politician, you have to say something like that.
No,
and then as he also hasn't attacked Trump supporters. Like Hillary called them deplorable. That's horrible. Like that's a horrible optical look. Like to say that she's like half of them are racists and awful people. It's just like, well, a lot of those people supporting him who, grant that, all of the racists in America probably supported Trump, but half of his supporters were not racists. Like there was a shitload of them that were just poor people that were looking for options. So I think that was a terrible move, and Biden's not that way. And I think Biden comes from a background where he identifies with people like the Rust Belt voters, who are these poor. They're not necessarily Democrat or Republican. They're just like, I don't know, like more working class type people. I think Biden speaks to them well. And, and a lot of those people identified with Trump a lot more than Hillary, just because of the way he spoke about things. And, people talk shit about Biden, like he's like, okay, Jack, malarkey, corn pop or whatever. And I think people, a lot of those types probably like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that comes across as elitist, honestly. Like making fun of just the old-timey sayings or whatever. It's very silly.
Oh yeah, no, I think that they will. I think that there's a segment of Trump's base that's going to go after Biden the same way that the Bernie bros did. They're going to call him old. They're going to call him a boomer and all this shit. Even though Trump, of course, is old as well. But they live immersed in cognitive dissonance, and so it's unsurprising that they would pursue a course like that. So,
but there was a point that Henry made earlier. And it's funny coming from us because obviously we talk a lot of shit on here and on Twitter, but that's one of the things that I like the most about Joe Biden is because he's not someone like me. Like I wouldn't really want someone like me to be president because that person would be very, very mean spirited. I'm sure
You would never be elected.
No, I'm far too divisive. I like Biden because despite being so innocuous, he manages to piss so many people off. That to me is really funny. He's
Yes.
constantly reaching out. He put out this like 2-page appeal to the Sanders supporters today, and all the Sanders supporters are still like, "Fuck you." It's like, wow, though, like it's like night and day.
That's the perfect way to do it, man.
His nice way to reach out to you, and then they're still pissy about it. It's quite amazing.
You don't be like Sanders, and I think that's why people don't. I know older people, both conservatives and Democrats, who are Republicans and Democrats, I guess is the better way to say it. But they don't like Sanders because he's so divisive. He's a divider. He hates on entire classes of people. He hates rich people. He hates people with money. Like that's a divisive way of thinking when you're demonizing people because they're rich. He hates
the party he's trying to win the nomination for, or rather was. I mean, that's what really did him in.
Yeah,
these people who vote Democrat every 4 years. They see this guy trying to get the nomination, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck the Democratic Party." They're like, "Whoa,
you know what's what's interesting? I know a lot of people have demonstrated here tonight that Biden has moved more leftward in some ways. I did send an article out to you guys in the group chat of how what was it? I think it was one of Biden's top campaign staffers that was saying, "Oh, Biden actually endorsed the travel ban on China," which was something actually even Nancy Pelosi was even against. So you could see that in a sense he actually agreed with Trump on that, which I'd even think that would actually even happen. But he's like, now 3 months later, it's like, oh, okay, like Trump actually shutting down the borders to China is not racist. It's like, that's how it should be. So you could definitely see, like, in that sense, he's trying to move over to the center in some ways.
Well,
he's not a centrist, but he's trying to, you know what I mean?
Well, this is the way it goes. In the primaries, you have to move further to whatever if you're right wing, you move further to the right. If you're left wing, you move further to the left. When it comes to the general, you move back to the center. That's the strategy.
Right. Which will naturally happen, of course. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Mycroft Holmes says in the chat here, it's going to be a close race. It's a referendum on Trump, which can mean either incumbent advantage to Trump or disadvantage, depending on where this COVID situation is in November. Well, if that is the case, I'm of the view, and quite a few people in the medical profession are in the view, that there will be a prominent second wave of this in the autumn. And I believe that will be under the same or more stringent lockdown measures come November than we are today in Canada and the United States. So I don't think that advantages Trump very well, except there is an argument to be made, though, that he's seen as like, well, he's like this wartime president and he's doing his best. And I think that his base will rationalize it. But I don't know. I don't think many people that are already in Trump's base will be turned away from him over his reactions to the COVID issue, because they'll defend him on that no matter what. But I don't think he's going to win over independents from that, though. So
no way.
It could be. It's hard to tell. Like, it could be that this hydroxychloroquine turns out to be the miracle drug that he says it is, and there's a lot of evidence I've seen that it seems like it does help. I don't know how much that's going to save lives or change things, but Trump was promoting that. The media was attacking him on it. Now it's seeming to walk it back. And you just had that Democratic senator come out and say, like, she had the disease and she took the drug and she got healed, and she credits Trump for saving her life, basically. I don't know. There's all sorts of ways this thing could go. Ultimately, I think it will be bad for Trump, because the economy's gonna be bad for a year at best, probably multiple years. And so going into it, people are going to be unhappy with the way things are going and looking for change. Mm-hmm. That's my general view of it. And Biden won't have to. Like, he wasn't in charge, so he can criticize Trump for everything that went wrong in this situation, without having to worry about being attacked, because he never. Well, he could even say that they dealt with H1N1 and things never got this bad or whatever, which would be disingenuous sort of, but tactically smart, I think, because they're not the same disease or whatever. It's a different situation, but he could compare the two, and he also wasn't the president; he was the vice president, and But I could see many ways this could go.
I think that the state of the economy now, no matter how much blame you ascribe to Trump for his reaction to the coronavirus, pre-coronavirus, they were hyping up what Trump had done for the economy. That's what all the conservatives talked about.
Yeah.
If the virus had not happened, I think that would have been the points that they used going into the general to say, look, we need Trump to stay president for the good of the economy. If he tried to do that in November, think how just like shitty that would be. People wouldn't want to hear that. They wouldn't want to hear how great the economy was. It's going to take a long time to properly recover after something like this. It's a big bullet out of his ammo. It really is.
Right. Well, I think the other thing too is, if you think about it, I think, Kevin, Reese, Henry, all of you guys have said this, that like, it's not it's not Trump's fault that this virus has happened.
No.
He tried to do the best he can. There's a lot of bureaucracy too when it comes to closing borders and stuff like that. So yes, his response time was a little slow, but there's a lot of things
that's
we
kind
didn't
of
know.
a big thing. He was downplaying it in like March.
Right.
On top of that, if you're thinking tactically, from a political perspective, there's so many sound bites of Trump saying shit like, oh, this is the flu, and there's tweets of him saying like, this isn't a big deal, or we need to reopen. There's so many dumb things he said about this
car crashes,
leading up to it. Yeah, there's so much shit like that. You can use that in campaign ads when people are suffering and their family members are dying. Like he'll be able to capitalize on that, whether it's really Trump's fault or not, but he'll be able to use that is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of it, we have Wyatt Claypool in the chat. I just want to say, thanks to Wyatt, he's the newest patron of the channel. So if you all are interested in becoming patrons, check out the link is in the description. Go to patreon.com/superpowerbroadcasting where you can support this channel. Wyatt says here, pandemics and natural disasters almost always make the incumbent more popular. Just look at Trudeau's increased popularity in Canada, despite having terrible numbers in February. And see, that's the problem, is that he also points out in a later comment that people, by and large, won't blame Trump for this because it's a worldwide issue. But of course, I agree with you guys that Trump's statements that minimize the crisis, you can use those as ammo to take away that advantage, I think. So.
But here's the thing with that argument, though. When it comes to like I get it. Like as far as like pandemics and natural disasters go, yes, people will obviously unify around the president. So like White is correct on that point. But I don't think for the average American they really care that it's global or not, because if they're out of a job, they don't care if Cuba is out of a job. They're going to blame some people are definitely going to blame the president anyways. I have people that are on unemployment right now that blame the president, so like, it's not Trump's fault, of course, but people will still blame Trump anyways.
We'd have to see like a recent, I'd want to see recent approval ratings of Trump in response to COVID-19 to really even think that the incumbent argument had much legs to stand on, because historically that's true, but Trump isn't exactly the model of leadership that is going to inspire people.
That's the thing, though. Trudeau was less popular before this started, and now Trudeau is pulling better now in Canada, at least. And Trudeau is a controversial sort of leader here. The thing is, though, Trudeau didn't downplay it. The only thing that you could really say that he messed up on, and that I would levy criticism over, of course, is that he took too long to shut down the borders, and he took too long to enforce the social distancing measures and get serious on that. But so did Trump. So it's it's a tough thing in that respect.
I think it's going to depend a lot. I think it'll depend a lot on how Biden and his team capitalizes on it. I think that'll be a big factor.
I think a big factor in this also is that like you said, people are kind of looking for like a model of leadership right now, and a big part of the question is do they look at Trump as somebody who is capable of leading the United States through a crisis? And when you look at someone like Donald Trump, I think a lot of people are going to lean towards someone like Joe Biden. He just comes off as much more presidential.
Yeah, well, one thing that I saw, which would be interesting if Joe Biden made a pledge of sorts on this, is that if I were Joe Biden, for example, I'd say, well, I'm going to put Captain Crozier back in charge of the Roosevelt after, because there's a lot of memes now about Crozier and stuff.
Actually, I talked to someone who's in the Navy Reserves on Twitter about this, a mutual. He told me so the reason why they fired him, and actually I didn't even get this perspective. So the biggest reason why they fired him was because it was a national security issue, because he basically told the media that like an aircraft carrier was down, which was the Pacific Fleet, which is bad because you basically like admit that your fleet is being decommissioned.
No. That's not accurate. He, from my understanding of it, maybe this is inaccurate. I only have a vague understanding, but from what I know, he used an insecure email line, and it got leaked to the media. Like, he didn't go to the media. He told his higher ups. He sent a letter to someone somewhere, but he didn't like go to CNN and say like, "Oh, we've got corona."
Well, no, I wasn't trying to imply that. I was trying to imply that the way it got leaked showed that our aircraft carrier in our fleet in general is weakened. So therefore, adversaries like China and Russia are more like, now they know. Now that's not a conclusion. They actually know that the aircraft carrier is not in full efficiency, which is a problem.
That's true, but he didn't actively go to the media. From my understanding, it got leaked. He used an unsecure email or something, and it got leaked. He didn't go to CNN and tell them this is happening or whatever. And that was and it is a problem. I agree, that's a problem. He should have done it the proper way and everything. But it was also, I think it seemed like more of the criticism against him from the administration and others was him being kind of vituperative in the way he was saying, you're fucking us over. My sailors are getting sick, that sort of shit, which is why the sailors all, were on his side, because he was standing up for them.
Right. Well, the perspective I was just getting from someone who's a reserve in the Navy he was just telling me that it's a huge national security issue if a submarine or aircraft carrier, if it's not being if there's something wrong with it and China and Russia knows, that's a huge national security risk to our nation.
I would not say that's huge. I would say that's minor, but it's definitely an issue. It's an issue. A single aircraft carrier being compromised is not a huge national security issue.
I don't know.
It's not like an aircraft carrier's down, the Chinese are coming. No, it is an issue. I agree with that, but it's not a huge issue. If a single aircraft carrier goes down, it's not like the fucking Chinese are going to show up on the West Coast tomorrow.
If it wasn't a huge issue, then I don't think
it's a minor issue. It's a minor issue.
But if it was only a minor issue, I don't think the DOD would have said anything. Though.
Well, no.
I'm just saying,
they reprimanded him. He's not out of the Navy though.
No.
It's a minor issue. Is my point. It's not like if an aircraft carrier goes down, they're gonna fucking show up and it's all over. Game over, guys. It's a minor issue.
No, I understand that it is a big thing that obviously if you're in wartime, if you're in a period of big tensions or something, you can't have your enemy know that one of the 3 carriers that you've got in the region, or I guess it's probably 2 carriers now, as 150 people sick on it. But he didn't. That's the problem, is he didn't leak it to the media. But you're right that he used an unsecure way of transmitting the information, and the argument that he was irresponsible to do that. I guess the problem is, if you're running an aircraft carrier of 5,000 people, you do have to be held to a high standard. But he has a lot of support right now from a lot of people who see him as basically standing up to a bureaucracy that's kind of out of the loop on the reality of the situation. So that one's tough. But I do want to go to the gun shark here. He's referring to Henry here. He says, I think the memes matter more than the debates. He says this election is going to be dirty as hell. I think, the memes, yeah, obviously memes matter, of course, but when it comes to Biden's base isn't going to necessarily be as engaged on that stuff, and Trump's base, by and large, is, it's a tough one. On some ways, they're getting disillusioned, and I think it's fair to say that, objectively speaking, their lives are going to be worse in November than they were in 2016. But Wyatt makes a good point earlier on here. I'm going to highlight the comment. Wyatt was saying, he says, tactically, it has been smart for Trump to be hosting the daily briefings, even if he fumbles COVID. People watching television think he is on top of things, regardless of party affiliation. And to the extent that that's true, I think it's because it makes him look like he's like a commander-in-chief leading a country in wartime. Like, at least, hey, the president's out there. He's doing his thing, even if nobody's social distancing at the briefings. Even if
he's trying to make himself synonymous with the idea of the U.S. president. So when people think, who's the president? Oh, Donald Trump. And then when November comes, they're going to be less inclined to let somebody else in. But I do think that there's a number of people, as much people who like Trump's appearances, you're going to have just as many people who are like, what the fuck was that? Like, really, that's true. This is embarrassing for us as a country. Get this guy out of here.
What's so weird is that it's like, I know you've mentioned this a lot, Kevin. It's like Donald Trump is so strong on the borders, but he took forever to close them. Like, it's so weird.
His rhetoric is strong. And Trudeau's rhetoric is super weak. Trudeau's all about, open borders and stuff. And yet they close the borders at the same time. Like Trudeau and Trump. Think about that. Whether you're on the far left and you're for open borders and stuff, or you're on the far right and you see Trudeau as a cock and everything, and you're like, oh yeah, Trump, mega, own the cocks. Those guys both closed the borders at the exact same time. Like Trump and Trudeau both closed the borders at the same time.
I think because even though he is, he often is espousing close the borders rhetoric, it contradicted with another one of his stances, which is downplaying global issues.
True.
He's done that for years with global warming. I was surprised even at first that he recognized that COVID-19 was real. I was surprised by that. I was like, okay, here's a good step for the United States.
It's only 22.
Oh, that's right.
It's only 22 cases. It's only 22 cases.
I mean, like that rhetoric is indicative of why he was like, it's not a big deal.
It's just the
gas prices are cheap. And so are airplane tickets.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, like there's just like a lot of stuff, I guess, that can go down for the election. But yeah, I mean, like Wyatt is right though. Like him holding daily press briefings are it does show a sign of like that he's doing something, even if he's not really, even if he does nothing all day and the only thing he does is come out, then yeah, people think that he's doing something. So that will help him.
It's also the only way he can campaign. And I've heard media people saying he's using this to substitute for his rallies or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily true. Like I'm a fan of the daily press briefings, not really because of Trump, but I like to hear what Pence and the doctors have to say. I do tune in and listen to that. But it does give Trump, a daily ability to sort of put himself out there. Which, is kind of, Joe Biden can't do that. Joe Biden can't have rallies. I guess he could have press briefings, I suppose. Maybe we'll see some of that going forward. Maybe Biden will start having a daily press briefing. Who knows?
I think he should. It would make him look presidential.
It wouldn't get reported on as much. Not as many people would see them. So that is an advantage that Trump has for sure. That's the advantage of being an incumbent.
Can I just say
he doesn't have to say I'm running to become president of the United States. He'll say I am the president and I would like to continue being your president. It is a big
don't know. Like over here when we watch the media, like say Sky News, well, British media, they skip the Trump stuff now. We don't even bother watching what Trump's got to say. We go straight to the professionals.
Oh man!
So if Joe Biden comes out and starts doing briefings every day, he could use it to his advantage because he'll just talk truth and facts. So maybe the media might put that on TV.
No,
Someone just
CNN
talking
would.
That is
CNN
the
would.
British media though. So
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
that is true,
CNN.
but-
Kevin's right. CNN would broadcast
No, guys.
all of Joe Biden's briefings.
CNN is the network, for example, like obviously MSNBC would do it, but like CNN is the network that will spend 2 hours dissecting how something that Trump said was racist or this and that. If Joe Biden's out there saying like Orange Man factually wrong, they're going to be all over that. Like,
yeah, that's
like,
true because CNN will play some of the briefings and like pick them apart. And that's part of the reason I'll watch Fox is just because Fox will broadcast the whole briefing, and the parts I care about are with Pence and the doctors, the two doctors that they constantly have, and like the other stations, the other news networks, especially CNN, cuts away just to like pick apart shit Trump said, which I don't even give a fuck about in the first place. I care about Biden and or not Biden, Pence and Fauci and the doctors, and they bring in like the head of the CDC. I care more about that stuff. And Fox News has been good about broadcasting the entire thing uninterrupted, except when they change hours or whatever, they change shows and there's a brief interruption. But CNN cuts away and just like chops it up. So that's been annoying for me. But yeah, I agree. If Biden started doing daily briefings, CNN, which is one of the biggest news networks in America, they would broadcast Biden's briefing, even if it aired at the same time as Trump. They would
broadcast his briefings live. They do his briefings live and then show some clips from Trump later and dissect it. Oh man,
yeah.
Like, the thing is, like, I like Biden. Obviously, I prefer Biden and everything. But realistically speaking, if you are a major network, regardless of the party, you got to report the White House first, in my view. But because that's where, like, as you say, the head of the CDC, you've got like the Surgeon General, all this sort of stuff speaking. But I'm telling you, with the partisanship and everything going on, I think they either cut in and out between each one and have them on a split screen, or they just air Biden's live and then have some clips from Trump. But that's my view.
The only thing that Biden needs to say is, hey kids, remember Obama? That's all he's got to say. That's it.
Well, Mycroft's saying that Biden does live streams regularly on his YouTube channel. Like, to see, here's the tough thing with the pandemic going on. It's tough to organize. But what I would do if I were him is get some place that kind of looks like the White House press room or whatever, and actually have like a physical briefing with people. And have, maybe you can't get the head of the CDC, or maybe you can the next day, that sort of thing. Have like high up people around you. Let's try to look at presidential spots.
Do you think a lot of people would care though? Like,
no, I think they would, because they're going to see lies from Trump. They're going to see Trump fumbling stuff, and then they're going to stop trusting him. At least the people that are on the fence. Obviously, Trump's base is going to watch Trump, but for the people that Biden needs to win over, the people that are in play, they're going to be like, oh, Trump's just feeding me bullshit. Well, Biden seems to know like what he's talking about, so. Maybe they would. At a very minimum, the optics of it would make it look like they were on the same stage, the same playing field, that sort of thing.
Right. I mean, I know Biden's campaign is pretty strategic, so there might be a reason why they're not doing it right now. But I mean, I guess they could start doing it. Like, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know how the logistics of that would work if he's in quarantine at the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, Mycroft's saying that he has 22,000 subs, which is like that's a lot for me. That's 100 times more than I have. But for Joe Biden, like, I would have expected more. Maybe that's I don't think the YouTube thing would work. But if he did like in person, social distance or whatever, it's tough. It's tough with the pandemic. I mean,
I don't think that's
well, wait.
irregular.
Well, you can't go off of like just like subscribers or followers or whatever, because Joe Biden had one of the least amount of followings, yet he won the primary of Super Tuesday.
True.
A lot of people,
True.
a lot of people that were going against Biden in this whole primary had way more followers, but yet they lost. So having followers doesn't mean much. Like,
yeah, I think that the internet following in general is just like a very overrated factor. I mean, like if people assume that Twitter was like a good indicator of where our politics were at, we would probably have like President Bernie Sanders, and the White House would become like the Red House, and
Did y'all
shit
get
like
that crazy echo?
Oh, there's no, there was a second version of your account in here for a second.
Yeah, well, because I closed the window on my computer from the. I don't even know how I'm on here right now, honestly, because I closed the window that has StreamYard up, and then I tried to like bring it back up, and it opened up another account going into it. So I don't know. I'll just watch it on YouTube, I guess. I guess I'm still here, so whatever. I don't know how.
In spirit.
Yeah, no, you're still here. You're still here. It's just yeah, no. See, this
like I just wanted to finish my point about the internet following. I mean, like like with Twitter, like what percentage of the population is even active on Twitter generally? Like, I'd probably say like around 2% or less, and then even then, what percentage of that is active on like political Twitter? That's like a fraction of that 2%. So it's really like it's less than 1% that is really that actively engaged in online politics. So I just think, like generally speaking, the subscribers, the following, all that stuff, it's a really overrated factor generally.
Because if you think about it, on the internet, it would lead you to believe, in all corners of the internet, really, that Bernie Sanders is the most popular candidate, right? Look at YouTube, Twitter, Reddit. Bernie Sanders is plastered everywhere. You don't see Joe Biden everywhere, but he won the Super Tuesday.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, so
by a large margin.
Social media and shit like that, it's all young people. Like,
yeah,
a lot of us are probably old compared to these people.
No,
I mean,
you're right.
Like,
I'm getting
right.
up there.
We're boomers.
We're like
boomers.
Okay,
we're all in our 20s, I think.
No, I know.
It's like we're fucking. Are you the oldest one, Jay?
Yeah, Grandpa's gonna go get his back medicine.
How old are you? You're 30.
How old are you again? Did you say you're 28? Oh, you're 30. Okay.
Old man. Okay, boomer.
Oh man,
You boomer.
Boomer.
Hang on,
boomer.
I'm the boomer, but I'm the one that out of all of us that can use technology. I love this.
That's true.
whatever you say.
No, dude, it's so great. I want to say on that point, there was a line that Bernie had in his sort of concession speech that he delivered today that I thought was great. It was great. I just want to go through it. He said, "We are lagging 300 delegates behind Biden right now, and it's essentially inconceivable that we could win. But so I'm going to be suspending my campaign. But we are winning the ideological battle, and we have done a bunch of big wins." And he said, we're overwhelmingly popular with the young. And I'm like, yeah, but this is something that like people of his strain of thinking have been saying for 40 years. And they've always, to some extent, been right. But then what happens? The young people hit like 30, get jobs, and then they're like, oh, I'm not a socialist anymore. Fuck that.
I would defend that somewhat on the ideological, because I've heard that where they've said we're winning the ideological battle, which I sort of think is true, because like I said, Biden is the most progressive candidate as far as like stated policy proposals. He's the most progressive on healthcare, on all sorts of things. And at least on healthcare, I think Bernie did push the party on healthcare into a new area.
Right.
So I think they won on that. And that's what I said with Yang from the beginning. My support of him was I want him to do what Bernie had done, which is to just shift the focus, which, on my focus, I want UBI to be a big thing. And if he could even do what Bernie did, to where, they're not talking about anything radical. Like Bernie's proposing extreme crazy shit on healthcare, but Biden is proposing things that are similar to Canada or the UK. If like Yang got a negative income tax or something like that, which is less extreme than what Yang wants, which is $1,000 for everyone. That was my idea. So I do think I wouldn't say they've won the ideological battle, but they've definitely made ground. Like they pushed it. And in a way that I would prefer, I guess, because I don't agree with Bernie on healthcare, but I do want universal healthcare. That's always been a thing I believe in, is that the government should provide some basic ground floor level of healthcare. And you shouldn't outlaw healthcare or make it illegal for to have private healthcare if you can afford better healthcare, or even like supplemental type healthcare, which I think you know better about Canada than I do, Kevin. There you have a national healthcare system, but you have options. You have options to buy supplements to that, correct?
To some extent, yes, but you can't really like skip ahead in lines and things. You can't really like if you're in line.
If you have enough money, you can buy better healthcare, correct?
You can buy it's kind of a tough system with that. You can't really like.
If you're a billionaire, you're not going to be waiting in line to like.
No, you're going to be going to the States. You're going to be going to the States, basically. So.
No, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you have options
can't
for
skip the line here. That's the big thing. Like they don't ask you what's your net worth. Skip ahead at the emergency room. They don't say.
You're saying you can't buy. If you have an elective surgery, like you need your knee replaced.
Yeah,
a billionaire in Canada is going to be waiting in line.
Well, no, then you go to the United States, and they go to the United States. Like
no
a bunch of people I know go to America.
A billionaire is going to be like, oh yeah,
maybe go to America.
Go to America, possibly.
Like because you can in Canada like skip ahead. Like obviously,
there's not private supplemental in like insurance and
there isn't like dental and stuff in dental and stuff. But the thing is, like obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I just know what I know living here and everything. Like there's no front of the line if you're a billionaire. The front of the line is you get on a plane or you get on a car and you go to the United States. That's what people do.
Well, they haven't outlawed private healthcare though, right?
Like this is what like okay, so the way that the Canadian system works is that all the doctors, all the firms and everything that run like doctor offices, that sort of stuff, are private. They're private contractors that are contracted through the government, through the medical services plan, and they bill directly to the government. So that they're private employees in that sense. But the government is the single it's a single payer system in that respect. And at least this is like non-dental healthcare, that sort of thing. And of course there's elective stuff that, you know, like if you want to get like plastic surgery or something, that's obviously outside of this. But if we're talking about like a knee replacement or whatever, there's no skipping ahead. And so like Wyatt says, you know, here, like in Alberta, you need to wait 21 weeks for non-emergency surgery, and emergency room wait times can be up to 12 hours. That's the same as BC, basically. Like it's 21 weeks, but you can wait up to a year or longer depending on how long it is. And so people that don't have the money are screwed, and people that do have the money go to the United States. And so that's why it pisses me off when people always talk about in America how Canada is like this great healthcare system that America could be like. And I'm like, well,
except I mean, it seems like it's shittier for rich people there, but like if you can't afford healthcare at all, like I mean, it's better to have healthcare rather than none, right?
Well, that's yes, that's true. With
like it's worse for the rich people, but they like you said, they can afford to go to the United States and get it done there. But like I don't think that they, you know, if they couldn't afford to go, like the United States took this model on. I think if you're a billionaire, you're gonna get your fucking knee fixed. Like it's not gonna be
not if you copy Canada.
Like it's not gonna be that you could hire a private doctor, right, to come to your house and do this shit. Like I mean, these people buy private submarines and things like that, man. It's not like
that's
you know, it's not like it's gonna be fucking that difficult. Like you have some billionaire waiting in line, like, oh, my knee replacement, 21 weeks. Oh fuck, what am I gonna do?
You go to America, but that's
go to America if it's easier. But like, even if America adopted that model, they'd get it done, right?
Well, no. If America copied Canada, no, then they'd be flying.
They'd be shit out of luck. No fucking way.
Switzerland or something.
No. Well,
we'd have to look into this further.
No fucking
that,
way, dude. I doubt that.
No, dude, you should look into Canada, dude. Canada.
Is it illegal for you to hire a doctor to perform a surgery on you and to hire them privately to do a surgery or to give you medical care? That's not fucking illegal, right?
Canada, to my knowledge,
it's not. You can do that. You could easily do that if you were a millionaire or a billionaire. There's no fucking way they're gonna say no. That's illegal. You can't have a doctor like perform this fucking task on you. That's bullshit.
No house calls in Canada.
Yeah, that's fucking horseshit, dude. You're talking out your ass.
Wait, I did want to get back to that previous question Wyatt had about the third party run. I don't see like a Bernie. I mean, I don't think a Bernie supporter or Bernie like kind of person would run third party. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe someone out of the Green Party, but I don't think like someone out specifically his camp would do that.
Well, I mean, the Green Party's already running as third party.
No. But I'm saying like a really pro like Bernie figure though.
There's nobody besides Bernie that like. Here's the thing: the question here can basically be brought down to: do you think that Bernie would run third party?
No.
And to me personally, I think it depends. Like, even though he's dropped out and everything, and he says that he's going to use his delegates to gain leverage over Biden at the convention, there is the possibility that if he feels that Biden insufficiently, paid tribute or whatever to him, and the monolith of socialism and all this crap, that maybe he would get better and Ross Perot it. That's possible. I doubt it would happen. I doubt it would happen. But I mean, look at how the bros are. I mean, here's something that's going to happen now in the next few days. Is that, and we're going to get to the tweets. We're going to get to some of the tweets. But here's the deal. People in his base are very disillusioned with him right now. They're like, we saw Neckbeard Jimmy just the other day. Neckbeard Jimmy was out calling Bernie a fucking pussy and all this stuff. And this was one of his biggest supporters. And we see with Vaush right now, what's going to happen to Vaush? He's probably going to lose thousands of subscribers. He's going to lose hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month in income over this. And people are going to see him as like a sellout or whatever. And they're going to see Bernie as like, oh, you lost us or whatever. And then Bernie's then going to be under pressure to live up to the extremeness of his base. So,
Well, the thing is, what I would say to that is, even though Bernie Sanders didn't like Hillary Clinton, he didn't run third party, and Joe Biden is a personal friend of Bernie Sanders. I mean, that could happen, but I don't see the likelihood of that happening. I mean, I think he will support Joe Biden and just stay as a senator or whatever, and then he'll just kind of quietly walk away, I guess, from politics in the years ahead from him. Mm-hmm. I don't see him running third party.
Just to go back to the Canadian health insurance question for a minute, I actually looked this up. I wanted to get some clarification on this because I was curious. From what I'm reading here, it says Canadians are allowed to pay for schools, libraries, and even highways that exist outside of public systems, but all bets are off when it comes to medically necessary procedures like an MRI or heart surgery. Private clinics can sell cosmetic procedures and dental surgery all they want, but if a BC doctor is caught selling a service that is covered by Medicare, they could be fined $10,000 for a first offense if caught.
Right.
So, I think it's like private health insurance is illegal.
That's fucking insane.
No, Henry, you've said this many times before. You've also said this about our hate speech laws here. You're like, that's fucking insane. There's no way that's true. Canada is different. Canada is nowhere near what Bernie would want. But if America went down this route, I'm telling you, the billionaires would be flying to Switzerland. They wouldn't.
You're telling me there's no way that's true. I'll have to look this up. I'll look this up in my own time. Dude, I'll have to look this up in my own time. You're telling me that you can't hire a person, you can't hire a doctor.
You can get root canal, you can get like a dental.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you're you can't hire a Canadian doctor to perform a surgery on you.
No, not if it's covered by MSP. Like if it's something that MSP bill, like that the doctors bill to them, and the government does the single payer option for, that's why
fucking ridiculous.
No, I know it's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. I'm not a supporter of this system. That's just the reality of the way that it is here, and that's why it pisses me off when Americans, the Michael Moore fans and stuff, talk about Canada with rose-eyed glasses. It's like, no, Canada is not this paradise where everybody, gets the medical health that they need immediately or whatever. That's just not the case. And so somebody in the chat here, I just want to bring it up. I think it was Tibbs. He was saying, let me just bring up the comment. He says, sounds like Canada needs to invest in their healthcare infrastructure and hire more doctors. There are two problems with this. The first is that it's expensive to become a doctor, both in terms of the tuition cost and the opportunity cost of taking that much time not working. And so a lot of doctors that graduate medical school here go and work in America after. And there's also the fact that even though we're this country of like 37 million people, there are only about 1,500 to 2,000 medical seats for medical school in the country. So there's a limit. We could only be putting out 2,000 doctors a year. And even then, a lot of them are going to America. And there won't be new medical school seats, not because there are so few schools that can be trusted to do it. There won't be any because if you are a doctor here, you're part of a professional guild that will have an interest in lobbying the government to keep the seats closed so that you can get 400,000 a year. Because if they made it so that there were, say, 10,000 medical school seats, then instead of making 400,000 a year, now your salary might go down to like 100,000. And so you want to keep yourself a rare commodity. And so that's part of the problem with having a government-run system, is that normal supply and demand doesn't work. The government is going to listen to the doctor unions or whatever with that. So
while we're on healthcare, where did the whole myth of Cuba having the best healthcare system in the world come from? Like, I know
socialist utopia.
It's like, well, no. Like, I saw these memes on Twitter posted by Bernie Bros that were saying that, oh, look at the Cuban and Russian doctors going to Italy, saving all these patients, and it's like, no, it's like, well, first of all, like, I don't even think Cuba even actually officially sent doctors to Italy, anyways, but. Like this whole, like, there's like this weird, like, mystical thing about Cuba, about curing cancer and a bunch of crazy Alex Jones shit. I mean, you've probably seen it on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, it's everywhere.
Did you know that Cuba already came up for a cure with COVID? They're curing COVID right now. That you go into the clinic and they're like, "Oh, you have COVID. Let's read the words of what." The counselor on Marxist thought has to say. You go in the booth and you say, I've got a respiratory problem here, and it's like, please forgive me, I've been a bad worker, and it's like a confession, and then the Marxist doctor on the other end is like, well, you've been suffering from class consciousness. Let me alleviate your pain. and
Kevin, are you saying that Cuba has a different cure to than North Korea?
Well, in North Korea, as I think it was Wyatt accurately pointed out, in North Korea, the cure for COVID, the reason why it's a preventative measure. They don't have a cure because there's no cases, is that you die of starvation before you contract it. Whereas
you get the bullet.
Or you get a bullet. Whereas in Cuba, they just they Marxist dialectic the COVID away. So
sort of like Scientology, but commentology.
You have to. All you have to do is just identify as not having COVID.
Oh,
I just think the Cuba thing is just so weird. It's like, out of all the countries in the world, it's like there's this weird fetish for like Cuban like medical.
Well,
like,
no, it's not just them. It's not just them. They do the same shit with North Korea and then like weed. They do the same thing with Russia and the traditional values and the lack of degeneracy. Even though, let's keep it real, even if you are one of those people and you don't like Muslims and you don't like degeneracy or atheism, Russia is one of the least religious countries in the world, about 10 times less religious than America. And they have about 15% of their country is Muslim, whereas it's like only 2 or 3% in Germany, where they all freak out about. So there's that. These people have this mystical rose-eyed glass approach to every anti-American regime in the world. Every single one. No matter which one you pick, there's some special thing. You're right that like they focus on the medical stuff with Cuba, but they focus on the weed and they focus on the harmony with North Korea. They focus on, for example, Assad kills terrorists. He's such an anti-terrorist guy, which isn't true. He freed terrorists from prison. He worked with Al-Qaeda before the revolution, all this stuff. It's like it goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, you know, every single time there's an anti-American regime, they're going to have some mystical apologetics for it, because these people are fundamentally at their core utterly batshit. So
if we're talking about interventionism now, can we talk about that article I posted about what Mike Pompeo said about the Afghan government, which I thought was so appalling? Wait, come on. This made me so mad today. Imagine this, Mike Pompeo, out of anybody, and I actually have some respect for this dude. Mike Pompeo, out of everyone, says to the Afghan government, "We will pull all 13,000 soldiers and we will cut all of your aid unless if you make a deal with the Taliban." What the fuck? I'm serious.
It's like Pompeo was replaced with a drone, basically.
I'm serious. This is awful.
Yeah, no, he's a mixed bag. He's especially disappointing. If it wasn't Trump who he was working for, I think that he'd not be saying a lot of this. I think that he would be more like Bolton, basically. But in a lot of ways, Mike Pompeo is a bit spineless, and
a bit spineless
on Afghanistan. It's one of his worst issues, and consistently the Trump administration's policy on Afghanistan has favored the Taliban over the Afghan government, who I thought were our allies. I said on Twitter today, it's a repeat of Syria. Again, just abandon another group of allies, fuck them over, and damage our standing in the world, and also endanger U.S. national security. If you actually think that the Taliban is going to adhere to our peace policy of not letting anti-American terrorist groups be harbored in Afghanistan, that's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, the other thing too is even Obama knew that we couldn't completely pull out of Afghanistan. I mean, I know Obama was like the dove of doves, but even he knew that we couldn't completely pull out of Afghanistan. So the fact that Mike Pompeo wants to do that, like the way that he threatened that, like right there and then, that kind of scares me, bro. Like if we're pulling out like tomorrow, that's gonna be really bad, because the date is set for, I think, June of 2021, I believe, is when we have all troops pulled out. But if Mike Pompeo does it like tomorrow, like if he wants to signal that tomorrow, I'm scared. I mean, like any moment now we could have the huge eruption. I mean, this is just awful. This is awful. It's
awful because let's keep it real. This could have already happened earlier if Bolton hadn't straight up said to Trump, and this is speculation, but I think he went in after Trump wanted to have a peace party with the Taliban at Camp David right around 9/11, and Bolton went in and told Trump, no, that's a fucking stupid idea. You're not doing that on my watch, and he had to leave the White House over it. I think that delayed this kind of crap, but their default, whenever there's not a Bolton figure around, or at least back then it was Bolton and Pompeo that you could say could together put up some resistance. Now that Bolton's gone, they're going in this super pro terrorist apologia direction, where at the end of the day, his stance on Afghanistan is it's honestly weaker than Obama's was. By far weaker than Obama's was. It's obviously it's weaker than Bush's. It's basically weaker than like with respect to an American enemy, an enemy that was an accomplice to 9/11. it makes him fundamentally one of the weakest presidents in American history, if not the weakest. Because it's not just this. He writes beautiful love letters, as he says, to Chairman Kim of the Communist Party in North Korea. He admires the president for life system in communist China. Like, there isn't a communist dictator that he doesn't want to be when he grows up. And he thinks that these Taliban guys, I guess, that they're swaggy because they don't care what anybody says. They just do human rights abuses or whatever. He
triggers the SJWs.
Oh, it trigger, yeah. They're TradCon. They're TradCon, bro. And it's like, which is funny because it's like Trump himself would be identified as a classic degenerate. I mean, this guy slept with porn stars. This guy is obviously, he doesn't follow, anything that he claims to believe in religious wise or whatever. Like, this guy's clearly something that they would identify as an infidel. But he admires them. And it's clear. He wanted to do a peace party with the Taliban around 9/11. And we have John Bolton to thank that didn't happen. And this could have gone cringier even sooner. It's kind of amazing they haven't surrendered yet, to be honest.
No, it is. But, there's a big difference between June of next year and tomorrow, potentially. And that throws the entire stability of the region.
Oh my God, I read several articles before sending that to you guys because I was looking through the stuff. I was like, no way. I woke up that morning, I was reading the article, I'm like, there's no way Mike Pompeo actually said this. Yeah, because I saw it through CNN, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just CNN or whatever.
Yeah, that's fake.
And then it's like, I see it through Fox, and it's like, wait a second, you really said that? And at this point,
it sounds fake.
I know. And now it's like, I tell my friends, it's like, well, Trump could pull the lever any day now. It could be 2 hours. It's done, and that's it. 20 years of sovereignty,
bro. It's their sovereignty, bro. It's like, you ever notice how that whole sovereignty angle only ever goes the other way? There's never the Afghan government has sovereignty. There's never, there's sovereignty over. We lost Nightmare Fuel, but it's a connection issue. He'll be back momentarily, hopefully. And he is back in the studio. I'll just add him back here. Yeah, okay, there we go. Reese is back. But when it comes to the issue over the surrendering to the Taliban, though, I mean, I know that there are a lot of people out there, like the Gabbard fans and stuff, and I know that we have a really cringy, brainlet ANCAP in the audience right now, for example. That dude's funny as hell. We got a hater. We got a hater and a traitor. I'm obviously not a fan of these people, but it's only one. We'll keep him around. We'll dunk on him. We got 30 Hawks in here. We'll let the ANCAP suffer in pain in the chat. But here's the deal with these guys. They fundamentally, at the end of the day, they have their default, because if you were going to make a sovereignty argument, well, you could say, what about the Afghan government's sovereignty? What about America's sovereignty over, in terms of the Monroe Doctrine, in terms of America's backyard? Like, if you were going to have that argument about sovereignty, which I don't, but if you were going to go in that direction, you could go from a side that would look at America as having sovereignty and America's allies as having sovereignty, kind of like how John Bolton does, or something like that, where you're not like somebody who just wants to immediately take over the world or whatever. You can still be a realist, but you have a default for America. These guys don't. Their default is always with the enemy. It's always, how can we give them more territory? How can we legitimize them further? How, like, they're swaggy, they're cool, they're TradCon, they're red pill, they're they trigger the lib.
They're against the libs, exactly.
They trigger the SJWs.
I just want to highlight real quick about the magnitude of what this would happen if Trump pulled the lever tomorrow. Like, let's say this all happened and we pulled out the 13,000 soldiers, whatever, and we cut off all the aid to the Afghan National Army. What this would do is everyone in the Afghan National Army will no longer have a salary, which means they have nothing to fight for, which means it's going to be completely disorganized. And some people would say it would completely disintegrate like that. Like, the whole thing would just be over. Like,
it'd be over. It'd be over
just like that.
Dude, the Afghan security forces have suffered about 50,000 casualties trying to hold the country together over the last almost 2 decades now against the Taliban. And America's ready to just throw in the towel and put up a white flag and say, "Oh, that whole thing about us being, a huge superpower and everything. No, we're weak like Luxembourg. We're weak like Costa Rica. We're out of here, bro. We're Audi 5000." I'm like, what? Like, it sounds like fake news. You're like, how can Mike Pompeo be saying this? But no, turns out it's true news. And
maybe too much of Tuck the Cuck, I guess. I don't know. Too much Charlie Kirk.
For sure. It's cheesy Charlie Kirk and Tanky Tucky Carlson, Tuck the Cuck. We got all these guys that Trump's listening to where their frame of reference on the center of the world is like Moscow and Pyongyang. It's not Washington, D.C. Like they like the boots of the establishment over in the Kremlin. It's unbelievable. And then you got this Trump guy out here who owes potentially hundreds of millions of dollars to the Russians. And Mike Pompeo, I've given him credit in the past for standing alongside Bolton and stuff and offering some, critique of Trump's anti-interventionism. But right now, I mean, he looks like a good boy for the Russian puppet, and it's sad and it's pathetic. So,
and also, one more thing, I do have a little bit more news. So I know, for me and Anthony, we've been watching this recently. Since February, we have closed 7 military bases in Iraq. We just pulled out another 500 troops. I think I sent you guys this article too. So we're pulling troops out of Iraq right now. Like as we speak, there are troops getting on an airplane and leaving Iraq. How is that actually defeating Iran? Like it's so stupid. Like his strategy is so dumb. It's like we're turning over these bases. ISIS is rising. The PMF, all this stuff is rising in Iraq. And what is Trump doing? He's leaving Iraq. We have hardly any troops left. I mean, we'll probably be completely out pretty soon. And it's like one thing after another.
Do you think that he's trying to potentially make a play, like for the general and be like, "Oh, look, I'm pulling all the troops out. We're ending the endless wars." He did promise that. Because it is a popular position.
He did. Yeah, he did promise that during the 2016 election. He definitely said that.
And that's a prime example of how politics fucked this all up. Really. It's unbelievable. Like, we just had Iranian proxies attack and kill our soldiers in Iraq. Kill multiple soldiers. But now he's pulling out. Perfect timing, really.
Not to mention the brain damage. They lobbed like several dozen missiles over at a U.S. airbase in Iraq, and even though it didn't kill any soldiers, a couple dozen soldiers got brain damage as a result of it.
I believe there were attacks where soldiers did get killed, though. It wasn't that one. It was.
Yeah, well, that base that got attacked, the Kirkuk base, we actually just handed over that base back to the Iraqi security forces. And the U.S. and British and French are pulling out their troops right now. So Trump is seeing this. And Trump is congratulating these troops as they're coming home. And it's like, Trump, what the fuck are you doing? Like, no, what are you doing? It's just, it's a pile of cringe.
No, what this is Alan Ray's in the chat right now. He says, "Fuck Russia," and I 100% agree with that, because what this is doing is it's expanding Russian interest in the region, because Iran and Russia are natural allies. Even if they didn't agree anything on policy or whatever, they would come to a common ground, because they both have an interest in having really high oil price per barrel, right? They both have really awkward geography and low technology in order to extract it, so they work together. And Russia's trying to take over Europe and break apart the West, and Iran's trying to take over the Middle East and break apart the Gulf states, Israel, and America's alliance. And these politics, this trying to win over the bros, the neat bros in mom's basement that listen to Jesse Ventura and Abby Martin and spend their days masturbating to anime porn and browsing on 4chan and posting how degeneracy is bad as they literally wank it to a 6-year-old cartoon. That those guys, like that's his base, and he's playing politics here with people's lives and with real American and Western security interests in order to appeal to that base. And that's utterly pathetic. I mean, it almost goes back to this whole thing of, like what's more sad? Is it Kremlin Kyle's fans, or is it Kremlin Kyle? And then you're like, well, it's Kremlin Kyle's fans because at least Kremlin Kyle's making money. And then you're like, well, who's more sad here? Is it these neat basement losers, or is it the president of the United States who's trying to make them think that he's cool? Like he doesn't have a hawk bone in his body. He always wants to be seen as like he's in the crowd with the cool kids, whether it's Xi Jinping or
Right.
Chairman Kim, or it's with his base. Like he wants to be seen as like he's with these zoomy neat bros, and you're like because that's who he's playing politics with.
You know what's so stupid, and what's so pathetic too is for the TP USA and all this conservative crap that was going on in December. Like, I remember when Cheesy Charlie Kirk, he was saying, like, yeah, we're going to put America first. We're going to put America first during this election, and we're going to pull out of Afghanistan, and we need to leave the Middle East, and it's not our problem anymore. It's someone else's problem. We spend too much on foreign aid. He went on this whole tangent, and Trump was there, and he was clapping them on. And it's just, the whole thing's just, oh man, like these people are so bad. Like it's just, I don't know, man. Like it's gonna be hard for Nikki Haley to win. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no. That's the thing. I single out those cringe lords, those yikes mongers who talk about how degeneracy is bad as they partake in the most degenerate things known to mankind. I bring that up because Trump is not like, if he were trying to appeal to, like, let's say it's the pro-life evangelicals or something, or say it's like, I don't know, the Israel, like the people that care about Israel and America having a strong connection or whatever, he wouldn't be doing this kind of stuff because those pro-life people are going to vote Republican no matter what. He's doing this because he very specifically wants to appeal to this fringe and cringe brand of anti-interventionist Republican base, because I can tell you that traditional base that was like, abortion was their big issue, gun rights were their big issue. They voted for George W. Bush, and they voted for him a second time after he did the Iraq War. So their issue is not foreign policy. So Trump is not trying to appeal to them here by going in this direction. He's specifically trying to appeal to the 4chan crowd. The crowd that says, why is Russia bad? We're the bad guys. Like the fifth columns, basically,
the USS Liberty crowd.
Yeah, the USS Liberty. Dancing Jews on the USS Liberty did 9/11, bro. That crowd.
I mean, it's so pathetic. I mean, it's like, here you had Bush 10 years ago saying, you know what's really sad? It's like, I was watching a video last week on George Bush back in I think it was in October of 2001, and he was saying before he got into the helicopter or whatever, or I think he was getting off the helicopter, he was like, yeah, like, we're not going to negotiate with the Taliban. It's like, you either hand us over the Al-Qaeda fighters or whatever, or we go in there. And it's like, man, like, what if I took this video and showed those people 20 years later how their party changed? I mean, it's so, oh man, just the 360 here, man. It's awful.
Well, it makes the point though that and I've said this on several occasions in the past, that the Republican base is malleable in a way that the Democratic base isn't. And so I'm convinced that if somebody like a Nikki Haley or a John Bolton or a Marco Rubio or a Jeb Bush type figure became the leader of the Republican Party and went on to be president or whatever, overnight Fox News, all the media establishment, all the memes of the Republican Party, the GOP, everything it would go from war bad to war good. And you'd have all those guys out there making fun of college hippies for being like war bad and stuff, like they did back with the Dixie Chicks and everything. I think that the Republican base, by and large, doesn't really have principles, but that fringe and cringe crowd that Trump's trying to appeal to does have principles, and those principles are Abby Martin good, Noam Chomsky good, Vladimir Putin good, all that stuff. USA bad. Like that's their
even if they don't like the left wing commentators, the dissident right is a factor that is, it's a lot different. I don't think they were much of a factor when Bush was president, or even when McCain or Romney were running. They are a much more recent invention, and yeah, they have a lot of other despicable views that prohibit them from getting very far politically. But I don't know. I think that there is a sizable portion of conservatives now who they are not pro-war in really any circumstance. They think, they look back on Iraq and Afghanistan in the same way that Kremlin Kyle would. And
you're right.
It would take I would be genuinely surprised to see Jeb Bush or Nikki Haley get the nomination without a lot of pushback. It's not going to be like when Bush became president. The world has changed. America has changed.
Not only that, though, but let's say Trump gets a second term and he does all this stuff. Look at the type of shit that Nikki Haley would have to deal with. Like, all that stuff that would have to be reversed. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, that would you could even do that in one term. So it's a lot you have to do. And I was talking to another friends on the DMs about this. You know, I was telling them, like, listen, like, when you go to these conservative conventions, they're not like the old school Republicans. They're not like the Mitt Romney, clean slated kind of Republicans. No, this is a new faction. When you're debating these people, when you're arguing these people, these are a very different crowd of Republicans. These are not like the ones back in 2012. And I was trying to tell them that, like, this is a very different type of crowd. So if you tell yourself that you're interventionist, they're going to push back on you. And you're going to be like, wait, what? And I was telling them, like, yeah, man, like, Republican Party, it's not like how it was back in 2012. So.
Well, no, that's true. But
I do think, though, I mean, it's kind of a counterpoint. I don't think, like, foreign policy generally is like a topic that a lot of the electorate really cares about. You know, it's like I think like for most people, I think like top three would be like the economy, immigration,
abortion,
you know, maybe healthcare generally. Like foreign policy, I feel like is much lower on the priority list for the electorate generally. So it's like if you have a Republican that you know if there's a Republican that happens to be on their side when it comes to all of those issues, and they happen to be, you know, of a more of like the interventionist persuasion. I mean, like, you know, depending on what, you know, who gets the nomination, you know, like they'll rally around them. Like, I don't like, yes, interventionism generally is not a popular point of view at all. And it will definitely be used to attack anyone running for the party. That's why I was actually thinking, and I ran this by a couple of people, that Tulsi Gabbard, I'd be worried actually if she gained like some genuine traction among the Republican base, as you know, a lot of there is like a growing number of Republicans that are moving like a little bit more nationalist in terms of their economics. And you know, she has like the nationalist economics, and she has the anti-interventionism. So I wouldn't be too worried about it in 2024, but maybe in 2028.
Well, the thing is, I would say to that though is like you're right. Like the average American doesn't care about foreign policy. They don't know much about it. But here's the thing, right? Like if you go to a conservative convention in like, let's say like 60 or 70% of the people there, like I'm talking about like actual political pundits, right? Let's say most of them are anti-interventionist. Well, that's kind of worrying though. Like if Ben Shapiro is the only person out there that's like someone interventionist, that's not enough. They need more. They need more.
Barely a pro-interventionist, really.
Barely.
But Anthony, here's the other thing though. This happened very quickly, kind of overnight, as Trump became president. And my thinking is that once somebody, say Nikki Haley were president in 2024, Fox News, the Daily Wire, you'd have all these outlets immediately. It's just, you know, pro-war article after pro-war news segment and everything. Tucker Carlson gets fired within the first week, you know, replaced by somebody who supported like a Bill Kristol type figure or something. And well, not Bill Kristol because he's like a Democrat now, but somebody like that, right? and you'd have the media establishment, the RNC, all this sort of stuff become interventionists overnight with respect to like Iran and stuff. Even though, of course, there's going to be this movement within the party that's separate from that, and they'll call Fox News cucks or whatever, sure. But as far as the mainstream of the party goes, I feel like they go with the leader. And if the leader's an anti-hawk like Trump, if the leader's a pigeon, they follow the pigeon. And if the leader's a hawk like Bush or Romney or McCain, they follow the hawk. And so it's not an issue for them. In fact, not even really very much is an issue, because you could say that their issue is abortion or whatever, but even Donald Trump in his own personal life has like been party to former partners having abortions and stuff, and they knew that, and they voted for him anyway. So it's like it's a follow the leader type mentality, and so that's why I think that very quickly overnight, within the span of a year or two or less, they could go from the bulk of the party, all these figures being these anti-interventionist types, to a lot of edgelords, a lot of Milo type figures walking around that are like, we need to bomb the shit out of Iran. I want to watch the burn and stuff. And like, they would do it in an edgy way that they didn't even really care too much. They're just doing it to be provocative maybe. But the tone, the default would change from anti-interventionist edgy and owning the libs to intervention as edgy and owning like June and stuff, all the libs or whatever, you know, that would be their new edge in my view, is they'd be warhawks, and that'd be so.
Well, yeah, because it's a double-edged sword though. But the thing is, I do think for the Republican primary of 2024, because it's so open, it's going to be like a minefield to walk through and win. Like, we could get a pretty decent establishment person, but I don't know. I mean, like I said, someone like Nikki Haley, sure, like she could win the primary, fine. That's all good. That's all great. But I don't think it's going to be as swift as what people are saying, especially for how open it's going to be with no direction. I think the vacuum that could take hold could go further down the pipeline, especially as people like Tuck the Cuck. They talk about moving leftward economically, which is super cringe.
No, but he'd be super cringe. He'd be gone from Fox if Nikki Haley was president. He'd be brought in the office, and they'd say like, "Hey, dude, you're gone. Like, you got to say you're resigning or something. Like, this is over." Like, there would be an immediate change towards pro-Israel, anti-Iran. That's my view. So.
Right. Well, it's just like, it does make me a little concerned when I see a few MAGA supporters or even the Nick people, where it's like they do have like a pretty decent following, and it's like when they say stuff like, well, we need to move leftward economically and rightward socially, that's a big yikes, bro.
No, I know,
that's not American first, that's American last.
But their base is doing it to be edgy, and I can tell you that if being a hawk was the new edge, and the libs, the SJWs, were getting triggered because that President Haley or President Rubio or whatever was talking tough on Iran, these guys, are they going to criticize their leader, or are they going to go after the libs and dunk on the libs and say, haha, you're defending terrorists or whatever? I'm not saying that Nick would do that, but some of Nick's fans would just become hawks because they just want to be edgy. They just want to be edgy, and whatever the leader is, they'll do what the leader says, and they'll do it in a provocative way. And if the leader's a hawk, they'll come up with really like, I'm not even saying that their arguments, like some of their arguments will probably be pro-genocide even, but that would be the new edge. The new edge would be in a war direction. That's
I don't see that coming from Nick Fuentes' supporters.
Yeah,
well, but it's not even just him though. There was the
I'm about to dip out, man. It's getting pretty late here. I'll just say that I am glad Bernie's out of the race.
Yeah.
Yep.
Party can unite. Go after the conservatives. Go after the Trump supporters. That'll be great. That'll be pretty fucking awesome. I'm excited to see what the general election has in store.
Right.
It'll be interesting, but yeah, I'm gonna head out, guys.
All right, see you later, man. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming on, Henry. Have a good night.
Thanks for having me.
Well,
Sweet dreams.
I do think though that but it's not even just the Nick people, but even people like like Red Eagle or some of these other like mainstream conservative, I guess, like people, influencers I've seen on Instagram or whatever, like they have stated, like some really cringy stuff recently, and they are Trump's younger crowd, MAGA supporters, which does make me a little bit more yikesy about this. Again, it can go either way, but I hope it doesn't go down the direction I'm seeing it though.
No, I know you're right.
It's just
that's the same thing with the Bernie crowd too. Is like his fans are young, and then once they grow up, they become like reasonable center left type people or centrist type people.
Hey man, according to Cenk Uygur today, they have this in the bag because they have the young people. So one day the party will be them.
But that's what they said in the 60s. They had the young people on their side in the 60s. And it's like, and then they grew up.
I got a hot take. TYT probably won't exist for the 2024 election. They'll probably be bankrupt.
They will. They'll have 5.2 million subscribers, and they'll be streaming on election night, and they'll have fewer views than we have right now. We have 33 views. I'm saying, like, if you ever watch their videos, almost all their videos have like 10,000 views or 15,000 views, and you're like, that's more views than I get. That's like, sometimes that's like 100 times more views than I get, and you're like, they have 5 million subscribers.
Anthony, I actually agree with you. I don't think they're going to be around either. I think that they have lost a ton of traction. Like the union fight has really pissed a lot of people in their base off.
Right.
And like having the progressive just lose time and time again, like Bernie dropping out, the progressive agenda generally just not being popular. I feel like they've already gotten to the point where they're running out of gas, and so
they're financially fucked anyway, and also taking money from like Qatar or something.
Yeah, every single video they're like begging for money.
Yeah. No, they do in every video. They're like, if you give money to TYT Army, you help real progressives win, like Cenk, and then Cenk goes and runs in real progressive California and gets 5% of the vote. Or no, I think he got 6%. He's 6% Cenk.
Yeah.
6% Cenk.
Here's the other thing too when it comes to TYT. I think Progressive Posse mentioned this too, that it's like in 2018 and 2019 they had massive layoffs. I think they cut almost 50% of their staff or 40, like some huge amount of staff they cut off.
Yeah,
they got rid of a lot of their programs and stuff like that. I mean,
they got rid of
they had to get rid of Agitprop, right?
No.
They had to get rid of
no.
Hikers program.
They got rid of What the Flick, which was actually a pretty good movie review show, I thought. I like Ben Mankiewicz. Ben Mankiewicz is the only guy at Young Turks that I like personally, even though I disagree with him on a bunch of stuff, and he's pretty left. He's a classy guy, and him and Jimmy really don't get along. And the thing is, they fired him. They fired that program, and they brought in fucking Agitprop so that this
his nephew
can come out there and say that America deserved 9/11, and he's glad that as he said, quote, a brave Mujahideen soldier, which by the way, I thought that their whole point was that the Mujahideen was bad and America was wrong to fund
he has no idea what the fuck foreign policy
he has no idea what he's talking about, which by the way,
no, because he said on a live stream before that the Soviets, they liberated Hungary and Afghanistan. The dude knows nothing. He knows.
Kevin,
when he made that reference,
what did Hassan have to say? I'm curious what he had to say about Bernie dropping out.
Wait, Assad or Hassan?
No, Piker.
Oh, well, when I checked his Twitter, he hadn't tweeted anything for 16 hours, but that may have... I'm gonna go and see. Like, here's my prediction before we go to it. Just as last time when Bernie lost huge on like Super Tuesday or whatever, I think it was like Super Tuesday 2 or 3, and Hassan was he was triggered, but he was getting mad at Blizzard Games to blow off steam because he obviously was crying on the inside over Bernie losing. My guess is he's bitching about video games right now, but we're gonna see. I'm just gonna go and type this in and see what comes up.
You are going to be amazed at what he said.
Wait, he has been tweeting.
I've been waiting for the part of the stream where we like revel in everyone's tears.
Oh man. Well, okay. So I got to be up very early for work. I had planned on going through a bunch of tweets and stuff. We're gonna go through some tweets and then we're gonna wrap it up. He's been tweeting. We're gonna go through some of the tweets. Let's hear him. Oh man. Oh man.
He's got one on Mike Pompeo.
Is killing me. Hurry up, Kevin. The suspense is
Yeah,
killing me.
no, I'm just reading through. Here we go. Okay. He says here, America deserved Joe Biden. Yeah, and he also says that America deserved 9/11.
He's still making light of his comments, I see.
No, like, see, that's the other thing. He's not apologetic over it, because if somebody random, let's say David Pakman said that, then you'd be like, oh, I see. He's like trying to make a point about how over the get. But no, that's Hassan. That's the dude that.
Hold up.
Reference.
Hold up. Wait a second. Is Hassan comparing 9/11 to Joe Biden's victory?
What
the fuck?
Yes, he is.
I said he probably thought Super Tuesday was the worst day since 9/11.
Oh my god!
Well, it's no Bloody Monday.
No. It wasn't the worst day since 9/11. 9/11 was a day when he drank champagne and celebrated. Like, the worst day to him, that was a party. Like, he said America 9/11, dude. Let's see. He says, I am personally excited to see how cringy the empty pandering will get from the "nothing will fundamentally change" campaign that once said, I have no empathy for you millennials. We will top Pokemon Go to the polls. And then he says, Mike Pompeo is such a big boy. And then he says, Trump was just asked to pardon Joe Exotic. And then we got that's basically it. We don't really have like a big freak out from him. Does anybody know right here? I know that Nick Klein had compiled some tweets for me to read, and I know that there were some good ones in there. We're going to go through some of them, but does anybody, right before I go to that, know of any bangers, like, where we can just dunk on them? They're just, really worth going into here.
From Hassan, I haven't seen anything too crazy from Hassan.
We responded to a bunch of them from Kyle, I know, and I brought up the one from Rihanna Joy Gray earlier.
Oh, we did go over that. That's right.
I actually, this is kind of an aside. I did want to say something about Hassan, because we obviously all remember what he said about 9/11 and Dan Crenshaw when he brought up the Mujahideen soldier, but like, obviously he's not historically literate, but whoever placed the IED that took Crenshaw's eye, they couldn't have been Mujahideen, right? Like, it had to have been.
Oh, is that
Al-Qaeda?
No, it was the Taliban.
Yeah. Taliban. Yeah,
Taliban.
I mean, like, I didn't even really think about that before, because I was so wrapped up in the 9/11 bit. But wow, Hassan is a fucking idiot.
No, he's a fucking idiot, because here's the thing. Their whole point on that side is that Al Qaeda and all this stuff was the Mujahideen, and therefore America funded 9/11 basically, and that's the idea of it. And therefore America supported the Mujahideen, bro, against the Soviets, bro. That's their usual Noam Chomsky type talking point, which is true. America did support Afghan rebels.
I think the reason they're really upset about that is because they're pro-Soviet.
But they're pro-Soviet, so that's why it was funny when he said a brave Mujahideen soldier. I'm like, that's kind of like him saying a brave American soldier. It's like, wait, but they were fighting your boys, the communists.
He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know.
A fucking idiot. I want to make this clear. We got 30 people watching right now. Some of you might be like, who the hell is this guy? Don't bother wasting.
If you ever want to rebuke the whole Mujahideen Afghan thing, you can blame Pakistan for the radicalization if they ever bring that up.
Oh man, no, I want to.
But they always blame it on America, though. It's the Blame America First crowd. That's the crowd.
The Blame America First crowd. That's it. Isn't it funny how the people that call themselves the America First crowd are the Blame America First crowd? What a joke. Okay,
I think that's what it actually means. It's not America First. It's Blame America First.
Well, it's like American exceptionalism. They agree America's exceptional. America is exceptionally bad in their view, and Russia's good. That's how they see it.
America First. Let's not be a superpower anymore. That's awesome.
Like America First line. It's like.
Well, I think I told you on another stream, Kevin, that Hassan has T-72 tanks for their stickers on Twitch, and he gives them out to people because he thinks it's cool. He likes the T-72 tanks.
Of course he does. He thinks that Stalin was based and pilled for executing what he calls landlords and kulaks, which of course were just peasants that had an extra grain of corn or wheat over their neighbors.
Those
But
damn landlords.
See, the funny thing is with all that is that they all talk about like we need like a fairer and more equal society. The only reason that we know who Hassan Piker is because he's Cenk's nephew. That's the only reason anyone gives a shit.
He's Junk Jenks. He's Junk Jenks, Bunkin Junk nephew. He's Guantanamo Bay. I always say, this is Dragon's a nickname for him. He calls him Guantanamo Bay. And I love that nickname because it's like it has a dual meaning, of course, which is the first one is, it's not spelled Guantanamo Bay as in the geographic location. It's Guantanamo Bay, like BAE, as in, Bay. And he calls himself, his own nickname for himself is Woke Bay, which is, as Ray said, that's like something that we would call him to mock him. But he does it as like a self-own. But then Guantanamo Bay, we call him Guantanamo Bay because, of course, he's a terrorist apologist, but it also has a dual meaning. What does Bay mean? It means before anyone else. Well, who am I going to send to Guantanamo Bay? I'm going to send this guy, Guantanamo Bay, Guantanamo.
Honestly, if he really wants to own himself, he should just constantly refer to himself as Cenk's nephew. That's embarrassing enough.
That's what I saw. Like a couple of people now, they're just calling him Cenk's nephew.
If you ever notice,
ouch.
If you ever notice this for Hassan Piker, he lives like the bourgeois that he talks about. That's so bad. I mean, he's got the nice thing. He lives in LA. He's got a good condo.
The Gucci swag. He's a materialist communist.
I've heard a rumor that he doesn't even pay rent. Like apparently Cenk pays someone pays his rent for him. So it's like he lives off free from his family. It's such a joke. It's such a joke.
He's got more rings than the fucking Mandarin. Like that's right. Him. Every video.
Oh man, we're gonna get to the tweets. We gotta get to the tweets. So Kyle Kalinske, Kremlin Kyle, everybody's favorite Russian Kyle. He tweets out. He has this this retro wave meme. It's that same format, probably the same program that I use to make the header for my meme page. He says, "I don't vote for war criminal rapists with dementia." And it's all like stylized and all this, and you're like, I mean, there's so much going on there, but that's not even anywhere near the best one because we got.
I love how that story is expanded. The now sexual assault story, which by the way is a fucking horrible fucking smear job.
It's literally a Russian plan. She like wrote stuff defending Vladimir Putin, to my knowledge.
Yes.
What if someone?
The thing is, the story has changed many times. Rape has not been alleged, although I wouldn't be surprised if the story did change to rape in a week or two, because it wasn't even sexual assault until very recently. But apparently he's just like, oh yeah, Joe Biden's a rapist. On what, like that? If we lived in any other country besides America in the first world, that is slander. That would not be allowed at all.
You know what? Well, libel.
He would be prosecuted for libel. Like if you did it in Canada and you said like on a public platform that say Trudeau or Scheer were a rapist, that would be libel unless it was proven in court. Like,
and I mean, people can say what they want about those laws. I would love to see Joe Biden take Kyle to court. I think that would be hilarious.
In America too, it's libel. Like you have free speech, but you're still not allowed to slander or libel people. Like you can't just say.
It's harder to prove, though. It's harder to really get through, though. Like only so many cases really succeed. I got an interesting question for you guys. What would you think if someone came out against or had allegations against Bernie Sanders? Do you think the Branch Bernards, do you think they would accept it?
They would throw bricks through a window.
Bro, it was a DNC
No,
rig,
they'd say it's an alt-right plan.
Yeah,
Well, no, they like the alt-right.
They
like
sent her
the
death
alt-right.
threats. Are you kidding?
They're all believe women right now because it's convenient. And granted, there are people who are not of the Bernie branch, who are just on the left, who do that anyway. I think we've in this community and in other communities have long criticized that yes, this can be very easily exploited, and if you're critical of it at all, you're going to be blasted as being some horrible misogynist. This is not a believable story. If people have actually read the account of this recent supposed sexual assault, it is a completely unbelievable, unverified, unsupported narrative that that's all I can say. Read it for yourself. If you believe it, I think that you're a very gullible person.
Oh man.
Do you guys I just lost my train of
Well,
thought.
we got to get to the next few tweets. We got the Gravel Institute here tweeting out.
Oh no.
And they say Joe Biden sucks. This is from 3 days ago. Joe Biden sucks, but please, no matter how much you hate him, do not ever consider voting for Donald Trump. And you're like, okay. And then
what's your option then? What's your option?
Let's see what they tweeted at 2:15 p.m. today, though. They say, if you're a progressive group, don't spend any fucking money on electing Joe Biden. Focus on down ballot races. Biden doesn't need your money. A guy runs against everything you believe him, and you spend money supporting him. Have some fucking backbone. So they switched tune. They did a 180.
Wait a second though. Like, if your party loses the presidential election, your local elections will go pretty bad too, because you'll have really bad morale. What the fuck kind of logic is that?
This is the Gravel Institute. They said it themselves. They wanted to be the PragerU of the left, but quote, without the cringe. What a meme.
They're worse than PragerU, because at least they're not tied to a politician who was at one time perhaps respected a little bit.
Oh man.
I mean, that's worse. Twitter. I stand by that. Mike Gravel, for a brief time, the account was under his name. He literally sold his identity to fucking Edge Bros. And now they run the Gravel.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even know what Twitter is. He's like, what, 90?
Yeah, no, he doesn't. They made all the tweets for him.
Doesn't he believe that
they did is take his name off it?
Doesn't Mike Gravel believe like the CIA did like the gay frogs or like some kind of like creepy experiment?
He's been like a 9/11 truther for quite some time.
He believes
there you go.
If it's anti-American, man. I got another tweet here to get to. This is secular talk. He says this is Kremlin cow, everybody's favorite Russian cow. He grazes in their grass fields, but he doesn't know what a farm looks like. He says, I have a message for the Biden people, and I'd like them to think long and hard about it.
Oh yeah.
No.
That's the message.
Yeah, that's the message. No. What a goofball.
The really sad thing with these people is that these same fuckers, like before Super Tuesday, they were talking so much shit, and they were like, we don't need to kowtow to you anymore, you moderates, you centrist corporate shells need to get the fuck out of our way. And now they're like, I said, I think I mentioned this a couple months ago, that when Biden was inevitably going to win the nomination, they were going to go through the Kubler-Ross model. And right now they are in the bargaining stage, and they're like, hey, you still have to try and court us by moving your platform a little bit left. And
I'm sorry, I didn't know that we had to make concessions to the losers. I wasn't aware that.
Right. Here's the thing, though. Even if Joe Biden took up every single position, people like Hassan Piker would still never vote for Joe Biden because they view him as an evil corporate warlord or some shit.
Oh, yeah, they would say that it was fake. They would say that he's a secret neocon and that he's just lying about it or whatever. But
I have a suggestion for you, Kevin. You should look at my most recent tweet and I believe it was the one responding to Kyle.
Oh man, I will do that. I just have one more Kyle thing to get to here, and then I'll go to yours. The first one is this Kyle tweet here. He says, Bernie Sanders supporters back him because of, and then he has all caps, policy. It's that simple. We prioritize things like, brace for cringe, my friends, Medicare for all, free college, ending wars, Green New Deal, criminal justice reform. Biden's record proves that he'll prioritize and fight for none of these. Wake up, he's not our friend. So,
that's a selling point.
like he's against ending the wars. Like, sign me up, man. Like,
the thing is, the thing that he doesn't understand is that there are a sizable amount of people who think that those policies suck.
Dude, they don't. They think that those are the most popular policies in America, though. The thing, this is how you know. Other political camps are used to, compromise, making concessions, trying to work across the aisle. These people don't even understand what any of that means, and it shows. Their idea of, oh yeah, Biden reaching across to us, trying to give us a sign, is Biden supporting Medicare for all or the Green New Deal? Are you fucking kidding me? What would be even the point of him running?
I'm sorry, go off, Fincher.
He wouldn't even have a reason to have been in the election in the first place and not have dropped out and endorsed Bernie a long fucking time ago. They don't know what they're talking about.
You can always tell.
I've seen people say, like, in regards to the point about making compromise, they say Bernie and Medicare for all, that is the compromise.
Oh yeah, because they're fucking communists. Those are the kinds of people who say that.
But here's the thing, right? At least Biden has a record of stuff he's gotten done. Look at all the laws that have been passed through support of Biden. How many laws have been...
That's a bad thing. He compromised with the establishment, bro. Whereas when they look at Bernie, they're like, yeah, sure, he hasn't got anything done, but he has his principles.
Why did they think Bernie would?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just had to throw in another jab. Why did they think Bernie would end the wars? He voted for the authorization to go into Afghanistan that's been used for many another conflict.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I saw someone. Actually, that's a good point, because I saw someone in Kyle Kalinski's replies or whatever. There was some weird, like, tanky dude that was telling Kyle, dude, Bernie is not our guy. He voted for the AUF or whatever. He's not our guy. Yeah. It's like, wait a second. You think Bernie's not even your guy? Like, how far to the left do you have to be?
Those guys, even Vosh himself said that he disagrees on the fundamental with running for president because he's against a state in his view. But the thing is, these guys, these tankies and stuff, they're like, they do look at Bernie and they see him as basically what the KGB saw of the left social democrats in like the Baltics and stuff. They're like, oh, they're getting the wall. Like, they're going to get shot. They're a bunch of liberals. That's how the tankies see Bernie. Like,
and that's the thing with communists, is that they are all idealism and they do not have a pragmatic bone in their body.
Oh no, their pragmatic bone. Their pragmatic bone is like, get out the NKVD and do another red purge. Like, that's their pragmatism. Like, they only know how to purge.
That is the compromise.
That's the compromise. The compromise is your head against the wall and the bullet into your head. Like, that's how these people think. Now, the good news is we live in Western countries where these people have no traction, and they're a bunch of soys who most of them don't even own guns anyway. And so they're not, like as Reese said, they're not the bros for it. Like, in their heads, they think of themselves as like the chief minister of the NKVD or whatever, which, by the way, it's funny because that dude actually got purged too. But, they think of themselves as, they're going to be the one conducting all the purges. And it's like, if they got their wish, all these guys, all these bros, they'd be amongst the first to get executed. Like the average person would have like a 3% death rate in the purge. All of these guys that are close to power, then they're all going 6 feet under, like except for the dear leader, basically, because they're all a threat then. So,
right, because it's only me can do corruption, not you.
Well, then that's the thing, and it's the most brutal comrade who prevails, and that's the thing with like the Vosh stuff and everything is it's like he's not going to win out on this one within his base, and Bernie would be a fool for trying to court those people because they think that Bernie's a sucker for trying to go through the DNC to begin with. They think that he should do a revolution and just say that democracy is degenerate and stuff. And so it's like these guys, well, I mean, they don't think that he should do that. I guess they have their own leaders or whatever, but in their fringe and cringe low commie worlds. But I do want to read Reese's reply to this, which is that Reese replied to that Kyle tweet and he said, Biden supports free college and a living wage. See you in November.
Is that a threat? Is that like a threat?
He has, well, it could be read as that. He said that he needed one. That might have been a different tweet I was responding to, but he said he needed one or two. I need Biden to at least support one or two of these policies that are near and dear to me, and he does. So, I don't know what to tell you, Kyle. You're wrong. You're fighting the wrong battles, apparently.
His expansion of healthcare coverage, if it's not Medicare for all, then it's not good enough. And then Biden only wants 2 years. Like he only wants like 2 years free of college. He doesn't want the full 4-year package. So it's just not on par with his high standards.
It's almost like college is really fucking expensive, and that's a crazy thing to promise in the first place.
You see, Reese, that's just a bunch of bourgeois Western pop propaganda right there that you're spewing.
Sorry, I got a tweet here. That's freaking hilarious. It's from our lovely Nick Fuentes.
You're probably the only person who's not blocked.
He blocked me. I can't believe he hasn't blocked you.
I think I'm not blocked either, but I don't think a lot of people know who I am.
How are you not blocked? That's the real question.
Yeah, you're Jewish too. Like, how are you not blocked?
I'm a Mossad spy.
Yeah, there's a Mossad spy watching.
I got that VPN watching.
Yo, Nick, you're not securing your borders right.
No, dude, once you get like blocked in like 2 hours or something after Nick like angry hate watches the stream, like, oh, I haven't blocked him yet or whatever, I don't think he's here right now because we've only had like one Groiper dude tonight. If he were here, there'd probably be a lot more Groipers, but
Now he would only care about your videos that are premieres talking about him. I don't know.
Wait, Jay, what's the tweet?
He says Bernie Sanders didn't even get cheated this time. He just lost because he is a weak loser. Lol.
Well, that's true. I guess we have common ground.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
But hang on. Can I just say he didn't get cheated the first time as well? Hillary was the better candidate.
That's right.
I
don't understand that.
Yeah, and he says Bernie, so he's implying that Bernie got cheated the first time.
Right.
See, even when we agree with the tweet, it's still full of shit.
Yeah.
They think it was a DNC rig. They think it was an evil, no good DNC rig, bro.
Well, yeah, there's many people who think that's what happened this time.
Wait, did you guys see that Trump tweet where he said like, "Hey, Bernie bros, come over and vote for me in the Republican Party"? Did you guys see that?
He did.
Did you guys that? Yeah. Oh my God.
He also blamed Warren.
He thanked aggressive McWoke too for running and stuff and splitting the vote and whatnot.
What a cringe lord.
I'm gonna get the tweet up.
The thing is, though, it's kind of helpful rhetoric in a way, not to us, to him, because I was arguing with bros today who said they were going to vote for Trump. Like, they came to me.
I saw one of them. I saw one of them. I know
they're real. It's not
I wish they were trolls. They are not. They are dead serious.
See, I'm just hoping that it's like the 15% of them that are like really online and are really into like the accelerationism shit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so negligible that it's not really going to shake things up either way come the general. Because again, like Bernie's supporters did not go vote for him in the primary. I doubt like these hardcore accelerationist types are really going to give a shit.
Accelerationism is so stupid because these guys live in this teleological way of thinking where they know in their hearts what the future is. So the future is communism because Marx said it was, and Marx said that socialism comes after capitalism and communism comes after that. So they're like, we need to bring it about. And I'm like, that's not what the future is, dude. Like they think we're in late stage capitalism. I'm like, capitalism's 300 years old. It's just in its infancy. We don't even have like a UBI or a negative income tax system in most capitalist countries yet. Like once that happens, like fast forward 5,000 years down the line, capitalism's going to be a lot more mature and we'll have a lot more automation. And I think that capitalism will be a lot more popular by and large with the average person than we're like in infancy of capitalism. But in these people's view, it's like end times, man. It's like the creationists who think that the world's going to end in like 10 years. It's like, it's end times, bro. End times, bro.
I like how the end times doomsday predictions are all happening at the best moment in human history. Like the highest standard of living, the best countries you can be in. If it's some Western nation, it's Germany, it's the UK, it's here.
Yeah.
Those are the people. Like you don't hear, obviously you'd get some end of the world rhetoric from the Middle East or some such place, but this is what people with privilege and luxury have the time to even whinge about. This election, they treat it, the Chapo Bros treated it basically like if Bernie doesn't win, that's it. It's over. It's all over.
It's over. All hope is lost. It's the end of the world. And you're like, they really think that because they work at McDonald's, that like that's the worst tragedy that ever happened in human history ever. Like, and they are so insular and they know nothing of the world. Like that's a common trait, by the way, with people that say that they're like anti-war, anti-intervention, or isolationist or whatever. Almost none of them know anything about the world outside of America. Like that's another thing.
Well, you have to know nothing, or you have to shield yourself from the issues that need addressing. That's the only way to maintain such cognitive dissonance, is to deny war crimes, go the Chomsky route, pretend that there weren't chemical weapons. That's how these people operate. But this does lead to
thanks for having me, Kevin.
Yo, thanks for coming on, Jay. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on, Jay.
Yeah, good to talk.
Jay is the fucking best.
Oh, I love you too, Reese.
Yo, everybody, go subscribe. Go subscribe to the War Kettle. Go subscribe to the War Kettle, and hit up his Patreon right now. He's in Cyprus. And under lockdown, and he can't work at the moment. So go show some support for Jay. But yeah,
well, do you want to?
I had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Oh yeah. Okay. So when it comes to like these Bernie Bros too, that it's like they don't realize that like how much like technological innovation that's happened since even from they're born up until now. It's like it's pretty crazy. It's like how much technological innovation happened under communism. Look at all the broken airplanes and broken shit. It's like you want to live under that.
Oh, but
that's what you want to live under?
But they were able to successfully copy the U.S. atomic bomb program, though. They stole the secrets and stuff. So
yeah, a capitalist market is where they're stealing shit from. Yeah,
like literally, that's one of their big accomplishments. They're like communism can get on par, can get on the same level as a great capitalist state. Like the Soviet Union's got nukes, and it's like. Yeah, that's because Klaus Fuchs and some of the other communists at the Los Alamos project, they passed the secrets along to Stalin and Beria. Like, that's not impressive. That's not, like, that system would not produce original stuff. And when it did, it was either only for the party leadership or it was subpar to whatever the West was producing. And they were incapable of producing consumer goods by and large. Like, sure, they might have had like a MiG-21 or whatever, but you weren't going to find toilet paper. You weren't going to find underwear. You weren't going to find any of that in the stores. Like,
well, to be fair, you can't find toilet paper now. But
that's the thing. That's the thing. This whole thing about how capitalism has failed and all this stuff because we haven't had like toilet paper for like a couple of weeks or whatever. I'm like, so this is what socialism has looked like for like 80 years in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, that's the default for like socialist states. Default. At least like, our stores restock in a week.
Our stores look weird when there's no toilet paper on the shelves. Their stores look weird when there's a roll of toilet paper on the shelf. You're like, what? Did the supply bureau managed to actually show up on time? Like
what alarms me is anytime there's any kind of disruption in the capitalist flow. This is a name you're not gonna have heard in a long time. I saw a tweet from Anita Sarkeesian recently. She was saying in response to the coronavirus, like, now it was a really alarming tweet. She said, now is the time we need to start looking into alternatives to capitalism.
What?
And I was like, yeah, this is the kind of rhetoric I absolutely cannot stand.
Yeah,
I am eternally grateful that people live in America, lived in a capitalist country in which they could make money, they could put aside some savings in case of an emergency. I am glad that there's obviously a lot of problems with health insurance and with employment and all of that. But I am glad that our healthcare is not entirely dependent on the government that is run by Trump and Pence at the moment. I think that would be a mistake. I think that would be a horrible mistake. They look at the stimulus checks and they say, oh yeah, everyone in a crisis suddenly becomes a democratic socialist. This is an exceptional situation. This is not what we're doing. Giving out money like this is not economically beneficial to the country. We are adding to the debt by doing that. We are going to be paying for it for a long time.
Right.
And you know what the thing is about that whole thing about saying, oh, we need to look into like alternatives to capitalism. In countries where like the general population is like much poorer, capitalism is far more popular. Like, you know which country capitalism is the most popular with in the world? Fucking Vietnam.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what else does.
The Socialist Republic of Vietnam. That's true. The average people there actually are kind of fans of America, like the American system.
Capitalism is overwhelmingly popular in Vietnam. And you know, like, this is a point that I bring up, like, for people that are living in poor countries that are under like socialist systems, they understand, you know, they look at our model and they understand that capitalism works, you know, even with its downsides.
We shouldn't have, like, the policies that we come up with to deal with a pandemic should not be the policies that are in place at all times. Fucking obvious. Like, what kind of world do people want to live in? Oh, they're like, oh, look, suddenly the government has trillions of dollars. No, we don't. We don't.
Hey guys,
taxes are delayed. We do not have that kind of money. This was not part of the budget. This is a special, like, last minute bid. Let's help our people because we were not prepared for this at all. That's what this is.
You know what it's equivalent to, right? It's kind of like, you know, if you've got like a really, really nice car or something, say you got a Bugatti or whatever, and you got to take it in and get an oil change. Somebody says to you in the moment that it's getting an oil change, race me, bro. I've got, I don't know, let's just say some crappy East German Trabant or something with like 20 horsepower in it. It's like, race me, bro. It's like, yeah, dude, it's in the shop right now. It's getting worked on. Like, I can't race you. It's like, I win. My system's better. It's like, yeah, but when the Bugatti is finished being serviced, it comes out and kicks your ass. It's like these things happen from time to time where you need to address things as they arise, like, that are different from the status quo.
And
that doesn't mean that capitalism's over. It just means that we hit a point where we need to address a crisis and then go forward. Like.
Kevin, you know what's funny too? It took them 16 years to get that Trabant to begin with. So you already run the race 16 years ago.
Oh, that's the other thing. It's like I'm just imagining like a Zoom or Wojak or whatever. Just like, no, but you can't say that like that socialism doesn't work or whatever. It's like, sure, it took 16 years or whatever. But you didn't win the race. I won the race because your Bugatti's in getting its oil changed or whatever, and then you just see like the boomer with like the sunglasses, boomer Wojak, who's just like, race car go brr with the Bugatti.
Like, race car go vroom.
No, dude, vroom. No, dude, see, like that's a meme. Like I've seen the Burr memes around now. Like Economics Explained had the Burr meme as like one of his thumbnails and stuff. Like that is like made its way across the interwebs. Like Burr is everywhere. Like
it's a pretty great meme, honestly.
Yeah, I like it.
Meme. I just about the whole money printing and all that sort of stuff. It's
that photo is still freaking hysterical, man.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny because the account that posted it was just some account or whatever, but that went big viral. And I made a meme about that with I took one of those somebody else made the drawing of it, but it's a Predator drone, and he's got like this super upbeat smile like JJ the jet plane, like the children's character, except it's a Predator drone, and he's in front of the American flag. And so I captioned it with JJ the Predator drone. All the kids love JJ. He his propellers go brr and the dictators go burn.
If Kevin was president, we would have like a children's show called JJ the Predator drone.
Well, in Hamas, like in Hamas territory or whatever, they have this children's show where it's a Mickey Mouse character called Farfour.
Oh yeah, no, I know all about it. Yeah,
Farfour, where he's like,
it's called Tomorrow's Pioneers. Yeah, although I think it's been canceled for a while.
No, I think it's been canceled too. But like he gets the kids to like grow up to be like soldiers of like the Al-Aqsa
They're
brigade.
gonna grow up to eat Jews,
basically, and it's obvious propaganda or whatever. But it would be kind of cool if there was like a neocon show for kids in America. Like because I remember growing up and like watching kids shows here in Canada and stuff, except like I would watch PBS like for the American shows, and there'd be like Liberty's Kids and stuff and all this. And like I thought America was like the most badass country in the world. I still agree. Like America is meta exceptional. But even those shows, they're like about the American Revolution and stuff and everything, and yeah, they kind of teach kids to be patriotic and stuff. They don't really inspire within kids the sense that it'd be awesome to go over and kick some terrorist ass necessarily. There, you could make like a Team America show for kids. I would commission that if I were president.
Yeah,
for sure.
You just have to take out the puppet sex.
Well,
or do you?
Or do you?
See, the thing is, it's like, imagine if you had like a show where you don't even need to make it like with real countries or anything. You could just call it like I don't know, like Harley the Hawk or whatever, for example. And like and it's like one of those children's shows. It's like Franklin the Turtle or whatever, where like all the characters are animals, except it's like real international relations.
This is sounding less good, honestly.
and all the bad guys, they are you've got
rats and snakes.
No, it's not rats and snakes. It's I'm just trying to think of like a good name that starts with P. Like you got Pete the Pigeon, and he leads this army.
Hey, Pete the Pigeon is a quitter, man. He's always just like, I don't feel like it. It's too far.
He leads this brigade of pigeons that they always come around and everything, and there's only a few hawks and there's like thousands of pigeons, and the pigeons, their whole thing is that there's been an evil, I don't know, there's like a tiger or something that's been going around, and and going around and like eating a bunch of stuff basically, and it's been hurting the hawks and it's been hurting the pigeons, and the pigeons defend the tiger, and
then there's a red cow.
It's his sovereignty.
A red cow.
That's oh man.
Oh man.
That'll be the only work Kyle Kalinske can get in 10 years.
No, dude, you know what's so funny about
Doing the
Kyle is
voice.
that so he grazes in the Russian crop fields. But if we go back to that tweet of him, I don't know why it looks like this. He doesn't know what farms look like. Like that's the thing. These people, they claim to be like populists, or they claim to be like, for the workers or all this shit. And it's like all that they are is like they do the Gucci belts, and they don't know what any of the flyover, they call them the flyover states, all that shit. They don't know. Like they don't know. They're just a bunch of like they ironically are the elitists,
Pete the Pigeon teaches us the failures of populism. Pete the Pigeon, he believes in the degeneracy of his own nation. He believes in pulling out all the hawks because he says that we can't kill that we can't take over that food, right? Because Pete the Pigeon, he stands in line and he waits for the breadcrumbs of the old man when he comes out of the park. And you know what the hawks do? The hawks, they're based because they intervene. They kill the animals. They intervene.
Oh, for sure.
And they build the nest. Pete the Pigeon has never built a nest because he doesn't know how to do one.
What Pete the Pigeon does is as you've got like these predators that come around and everything, Pete the Pigeon actually says that this is their land and that we are lucky that they haven't killed us yet and that we should pay tribute to them and sing their praise. And then Harley the Hawk says, what the hell, are you some kind of isocuck? Like
I would love the moral character to say that.
The moral of the story for the kids as they're watching this is that you're actually weak if you think that the predators are right to come in and kill your flock and take your food and everything. And then Harley the Hawk is actually right because Harley the Hawk stands up to bullies. Now, in fairness, there are kids shows out there like Arthur and stuff like that that have made a point that like standing up to bullies is good and all this. The problem is, as it carries over, you'll notice, like even in high school, for example, I remember going to high school and a lot of people that were more politically minded, that were more, into like volunteering and stuff, they genuinely wanted to make the world a better place. And they would see bullying and that kind of stuff as wrong. And they may even intervene in that case within the school. They all turned out to be anti-war in university and all this shit and the Noam Chomsky types and everything. And it's like, so we need this kind of stuff to continue.
Well, it's because they think America is the bully.
They think America's the bully. They look at Saddam butchering 1.5 million people and gassing 10,000 innocent Kurds so that he can rape and pillage the land and get his oil and everything. They look at him as the good guy. They look at him as the victim. They look at him as the victim. They look at Bush standing up for the people of the world. They look at him as a bully. They're like, well, it's his sovereignty, bro. Like, in other words, their version of making a difference in the world went from fighting a bully to it's not our place to intervene, bro. It's not our place to intervene, bro. And if you intervene, you're a neocon. It's like the cognitive.
It's really insulting that we go back to one of the Hassan tweets. One of their points of making fun of Biden is, they think nothing will change if he became president. These are the kind of people who, if they were put in power, the world, at best wouldn't change. It would realistically change quite a deal. But that's what they look at. They look at the status quo of the world and they think that it is worth upholding. They like the idea, Russia and China gaining more power, their puppet states doing whatever Maduro staying in power. That's awesome. But these are the kinds of people who are criticizing Joe Biden for upholding the quote status quo. You have to be fucking kidding me.
No, they
support a worse status quo.
They do. You're right, because I've made this point before. I'm convinced that with these people, if you honestly press them on it, they would concede that they believe that Russia's sphere of influence is everything outside of America. And once that happens, then they'd be like, well, Russia should come into America too, because we've got degenerates here. Like they're on their side. Like they're not on America's side. They're not on Canada's side. They're not on Britain's side. Like it would be one thing if these people weren't like patriotic to America, but they were like fans of the British monarchy or something. But like they're fans of America's outright enemies. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Or sometimes
I once argued with excuse me, with one of these Groiper people, and and he was arguing against intervention, and I made the case to him, well, you know, from a perspective of America first, doesn't it make sense to take a more proactive stance towards our national security?
Yeah.
You know, I asked him like point blank, like, wouldn't you rather fight a war on the opposing territory's shores as opposed to your own? And he unironically said, no, I would rather fight a war on our own borders. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, right, yeah. And this is the thing with and this is the thing with like and then this is why earlier today there was that David Pacman tweet I had, and this is the thing, they never have this is the thing with like the Pete the Pigeons, they don't have a plan until the last minute. Pete the Pigeon, he sees Maduro as a problem, but he's like, I'm not going to do anything about it. But when Maduro takes over his country, he's like, oh shit, we have to do something. It's like, Pete the Pigeon, you should have had a plan before. So that's the thing with the isolationists. They never have a plan. They never have a plan.
But dude, here's the thing: if we do at some point commission this children's show to be produced, here's what would happen. Here's
more and more serious.
Here's what I would insist on the artistic rendering depicting Pete the Pigeon's face as. He would be the triggered Zoomer Wojak or Voyak, depending on how you pronounce his name, from the Burr memes, where he's like, no, you can't do this or whatever. And Harley the Hawk's face, his smirk would be that, you know, that uplifting, that kind of like he's got your back, bro, kind of like smile smirk from that political compass that I posted of the enlightened liberal hawk, and you've got the nationalist, and you've got the Blairite, and you've got, you know, the Titoist asset, and you've got the Francoist asset. So like you got all these guys from these various spectrums that are all, you know, left to right, but they're all fundamentally on America's side, and they're all just like, yeah, you know, we got your back. And then you've got all the other people who are just triggered Wojaks, who are like, they're crying, they're like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. It's like my friend Elias made a meme the other day, and it was it was this guy saying basically, no, you can't call me a fascist, I'm a Baathist. We mix traditional nationalism with socialism and Arab nationalism and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, the tweet goes on, and then you've got this guy wearing like an American bandana, and he's like, you know, he's almost like one of these Duck Dynasty type guys, and he's just like, fucking fascist. It's like, it's like I love that. Okay, that's one of the best meme formats I've seen. Because I remember way back in the day, like years ago, people would say like, "You're seriously saying you support the war in Iraq?" And I'm like, yes. But like the fact that that's a meme now, that yes is a meme. That's so great. That's so great. Like that had so much potential there to subvert and take back from the era of cringe, where we can take back the memes for the Hawks. So,
guys, did you see Beast Diad or whatever, that Twitch streamer guy?
Yeah,
did you guys see that clip?
Biden.
Oh no, but did you see that question like from the Bernie supporter? So the Bernie supporter sends a super chat, and he's like, so you mean that you would support Joe Biden because he voted for the Iraq War? And he lays it right onto him. Yeah, I do support taking out Saddam Hussein because the United States has every right to do so. And it was the best. It was just so great.
Yeah, I saw the debate that he did with the Bernie supporter. He did a couple of. He had no idea what he was getting into, because this Bernie supporter,
he was such a loser. Like he didn't know that he was an actual hawk. So when he said that, he was just blown out of the water. Like it was just so great. He had nothing to say.
They think that it's like a myth. They think that it's like goblins or gnomes hiding in the caves or something. Like they don't understand that there are real people out there that believe in intervention. And when they come across them, to quote somebody who saw my meme page for the first time, they said, just reading the name of that page makes my blood pressure rise. That's what they told me. Liberal Hawk memes for more.
Hey, let it rise further.
Yeah, and I'm like, these memes, they make their blood boil, man. Like, I know we got to wrap up the stream pretty soon, but I mean, I'm just saying, we've had some very, very potent memes come out in recent months. Like the yes memes are very potent and exploitable.
People should make more memes for us, and I'll post them.
Well, people made memes about me. Like when I finished up the stream the other day, it was like, rare image of a family watching Superpower podcast.
You know what? Arthur sent that to me, and I just thought it'd be too good not to post.
That was a pretty good meme. I'm looking forward to seeing more of those memes.
Before we go off air, I do have one last question for the panel, and I regret that not everyone's here, but it is what it is. This is more on the Sanders topic, but now that he is officially suspending his campaign, who do you think, what do you think the progressive movement is going to look like going forward, maybe for the rest of this year? Maybe 4 years from now, who they would coalesce around, who would be the next Bernie Sanders? I'm actually really curious what we think is going to become, because this could just be a flash in the pan. We could really see an end to leftist populism in a big way without a figure as big as Bernie. He was easily the biggest person in their movement. I'll let you guys go ahead.
I'll go. You go first.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, what I would say to that is, for the near future, I think the squad will hold themselves up for a little while without Bernie specifically. So that will. I think those people will be around for a little longer. I mean, like Bernie will phase himself out, but I think the squad will be there, unfortunately, for a little while. I can't name any senators or any Congress people, I guess, or whether it be male or female, that are actually as vocal as Bernie Sanders. I mean, we could get someone new in the ranks who wins a seat, and then so it's hard to tell. I mean, someone currently, I don't see it, especially someone as devoted as Bernie Sanders, though, because Bernie Sanders is if you see everything he says, he repeats himself over and over. I've never seen that from a politician. If you see one video from him, you've seen them all. So it's gonna be really hard to tell. But honestly, I don't really know. So I'll have to wait.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that their movement is going to need someone that they can coalesce around. And I mean, look, it's possible that for the next decade or so plus, even, that it could lie dormant for a while. I mean, it'll come back, as it always ends up rearing its ugly head. But I think for now it'll probably lay dormant for a while, because honestly, this was the last gasp of the progressive movement. And with Bernie dropping out today, it seems like they're really out of gas.
Oh, I see someone say Warren, and I think someone said Warren in the chat. I don't know if Warren would be the next leader of this progressive.
No some people way. Are saying Some people are saying AOC, but no.
No.
They think he's a sellout too.
It's not going to be AOC. I'm just going to give my answer here now as to how I think that this stuff is going to go. It's not going to be AOC. In fact, I got news, dudes. It's not going to be a woman. I've seen how even Vosh said, fuck women and everything, and he compared Elizabeth Warren to Hillary Clinton and said that they were basically the same.
What was the other? He said about Warren that if she became president,
that she would it would simply be so that she could rub her labia over the velvet chair.
That's right. What the
of
fuck?
Oval Office. And now when I watched his stream today, he was saying, well, if you're a true leftist and everything, it's because you care about racial equality and you care about women's rights and everything. I'm like, no, that's cute rhetoric. He doesn't care about it. These bros, they would never vote for a woman. So it has to be a male. And as far as who is in the progressive sort of camp that's male, that there isn't anybody. Here's where I see this going. That crowd, the bros specifically, because not everybody who supported Bernie was a Bernie bro. There were some who were just the AOC types, but not misogynist and not toxic about it or whatever. And they were kind of naive and stuff. But as far as the bros, the Hassans of the world, the neckbeard Jimmies, all these people, who are they going to go for? Well, they're not really going to have a big candidate to rally around. They'll have like Tulsi's and they'll have their Gravels, they'll have their Venturas or whoever, but they won't have anybody that gets above 1 or 2%. They're going to, with time, become more and more into like the dirtbag left idea of, screw democracy, we want a revolution or whatever. But I don't think that that's ever going to go anywhere for them. And even if they tried, they just wind up getting arrested or whatever. It wouldn't work out. The right wing might have a chance of pulling off a putsch under some circumstances where they had the army on their side, sure. But these guys would never have the army on their side. The other thing is, as far as where do I see the other half of that going, the people that aren't so toxic, that are Bernie supporters or whatever, they're going to rally around people like AOC and Elizabeth Warren, and they're going to vote for Joe Biden this time. And at the end of the day, they're not going to vote for somebody like Donald Trump. These guys, these bros, some of them, 14% of them voted for Trump last time. 14% of Bernie's supporters vote for Trump. I could see more of them now voting for Trump, but I don't think it's going to hurt Biden, because Biden's more popular than Hillary Clinton was, and he'll make up the difference with independents. And so at the end of the day, what I see as the future of this is that they are going to be entirely ineffectual, and they're going to have their little community on YouTube where they watch videos about how Juche is red pilled and TradCon, and they watch videos about like Abby Martin and Noam Chomsky and stuff, and they'll watch Nick Fuentes and say, he might be a fascist, but at least he owns the libs or whatever, and all this stuff. And it's like, they're never going to have a president that's going to represent the bros. The bros will never be in power, and that's a really good thing. And I wanted to do this stream tonight. We're going to wrap things up here, but I wanted to do the stream tonight to kind of make the point clear and to dunk on the fact that they lost. He's not running again. By their own supporters' admission, he just won't be running again. He's too old. They even get it. They lost. And they're never going to have somebody with as much a chance at the White House as they had now. And they're going to let Bernie know their contempt for him. They're going to blame Bernie.
Many of them have.
They'll blame the DNC. They'll blame the DNC. But my prediction is that unlike the DNC rig stuff that they did with Hillary Clinton, there'll be some of that. But over time, it will turn to Bernie is the reason why you don't compromise with libs and Democrats, and that's why you have to just get out your guns and take the system down.
You're already seeing it. You're already seeing that with a lot of them.
I would say this too. I mean, if from what I've researched, more women and minorities voted for Joe Biden than Bernie Sanders. So you've kind of already lost that. You already lost that, and the margin's pretty high. Like, look at black women or Hispanic women. They're voting for Joe Biden. They're not voting for fucking Bernie Sanders.
That's why Vosh went over the stats on the live stream, and that's why he said, he's like, well, fuck women, and he called them Harry Potter liberals.
Exactly. Well, because the thing is, people like Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker and the Voshes and Kyle Kalinskis, they're such liars. They think that all these people are like super woke progressive. It's like, no, they're like center left. They're not like these. Like, these people live in fantasy land. It's like, okay, maybe some of these people, But a lot of people who are, like women and stuff like that, like they're actually more like center left. They're not as far left as you think they are.
Well, if you're a woman, even if you were going to agree with Bernie's policies, if you're a woman and you see his supporters and how they all talk about how like women should get back to the kitchen and shit, and they basically want to go back to like the 1950s sort of like, manufacturing economy. That's one of the huge differences. I know people have compared Yang to Bernie. One of the big differences between Yang and Bernie is that Yang embraces automation and embraces capitalism and embraces advancement in economics. And Bernie and his supporters, they are disgusted by economic advancement. They want to go backwards, and they don't like the fact that women are empowered, and they don't want to take advantage of things like automation. They want to go back to like the Stalin factories and shit, and the 5-year plans and everything. And it's like it's a mess. So.
Yeah, I mean it is such a joke. I mean, like these people live in like such a bubble. Like they live in like these very like super hyper liberal counties, and it's like, well, that's not the rest of the country, bro. That's like your county, your city.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, they can't even run in like or like even win in like their own places that are super
they can't
liberal.
even win in California.
It's like Jake Uger.
Yeah,
dude, that was like okay, like Jake Uger, where he was running. It wasn't the most Democratic heartland, but that was pretty liberal though. Like Jake,
and he also couches his whole popularity on the supposed crossover appeal to conservative Trump supporters because we're both populists, bro. And then
wasn't he like disgusted with that one woman that was leading in front of him like during the Super Tuesday? Yeah, like he says all this crap. It's one of those things where it's like he says he's for women's rights, but as soon as like a woman gets ahead of him in like the elections or something, then he goes full on fash. Like it's
they see it as false consciousness. They see them as either low information or false consciousness or Uncle Tom's. That's and
you made the point, Anthony, that like a lot of these people, they live in like hyper liberal counties, and they're living basically in an echo chamber, and they have people. I mean, I had someone tell me, how is it that Hillary is more popular than Bernie when all of my Facebook friends are Bernie supporters? And I'm like, you can't be serious right
Karen,
now.
Yeah, Karen from next door is not representative of the U.S. Sorry, buddy.
Man. Judging dogma rights. Wait till Bernie endorses Biden. We'll be swamped by thousands of Jimmy Dore takes that day.
No, it'll be grand. We live in an age that is the bros are so unself-aware that Michael Tracy appears to be the most reasonable person.
Saw the tweets.
Yeah.
I saw the tweets.
I was like, he's had a lot of good takes lately.
Michael Tracy. Michael fucking Tracy.
Michael Tracy has good takes. And the thing is, like, Jake is not even the most radical of them. Like, think of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore's even further. Jimmy Dore's like, yeah, you're degenerate. Like
they had to kick him from the Young Turks. They had to kick him from the Young Turks.
Yeah, because he's too radical.
The gun shark says here, yep, Jank's reaction was basically reeing at Christy Smith until he lost. Yeah, because he's 6% Jank. That's all he knows how to do. And like this boss thing.
Dude, that's such
6% Jake. Dude, he's 6% Jake. Dude, he's got 5 million subs and he's 6% Jank.
Can you imagine if Jank Uger ran in like an independent or Republican like primary for his seat? Dude,
if he ran in Michigan, he'd get like 0%. Like he'd be 0%.
It's like if you can't even get 10% in a super liberal county, how the hell are you gonna win over like the fucking Republicans? Are you kidding me?
I love how Bernie might not even crack like double digits. Like
no. Bernie rejected his endorsement, and I'll say on the double digits thing just quickly there. If he runs in a place like I don't know the Rust Belt or something, it's not he might get double digits maybe, but it's absolute votes. It's not percentage.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, that's what I meant. Double digit percentage, double digit votes.
Like Tulsi Gabbard got like 16 votes or something in one of the primaries or whatever. It's like he might be in that situation. He's like, well, we cracked 2 digits. So and he'll come out and do his little stream where he says like, well, we're winning. Today we lost the battle, but we're winning the ideological war. Like we still managed to crank out 12 votes, but we're winning over the youth. So it's
and what is Corbyn doing right now? What is he doing?
That's the
working
same
out
thing that they said after Corbyn got his ass kicked by Boris Johnson.
What does he do?
What does he do now?
Yeah, because I thought he stepped down, right? He stepped down from the leadership, so
didn't he get voted out?
I thought he resigned.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they got a new leader, dude. They got a new leader.
Yeah, they elevated someone else to be. I know that like just today he was wishing solidarity to his fellow comrade Bernie. So
Jesus
Comrade
Christ.
Bernie.
They have a lot in common. So it's honestly it's the best person for Bernie to hear from.
I've actually did a little research. Apparently, Corbyn got a lot of his ideas from Bernie Sanders. I didn't even know that.
That's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
A lot of his platform came from Bernie. Oh, sorry.
Guys, we do need to wrap this up, so I'm just going to give you the opportunity, each of you, to give your final thoughts, and then we'll close out the stream. I got to go to bed.
Gotcha. Wait, so you're saying we're not going to go 7 hours? You fucking pussy.
Dude, we've had 30 people here basically the whole night. We've already gone 3 hours. This stream was supposed to go 2 hours, so
fair. We're going to start seeing smaller and smaller streams. Just for the record, I suppose I'll give my final thoughts. This is a really good thing that's happened because this is a major setback for the progressive movement that I think has become more and more toxic over time. The ideas that they're presenting don't offer a whole lot of room for compromise or debate. They're very unworkable, very idealistic and utopian, and unnecessary in any serious political discourse. I think that they're going to be scrambling for a long time. Yeah, maybe they'll try AOC, but AOC is a woman and she's not even a senator. She is not the same. If they want this chance at the White House, they need someone on the same level as Bernie, and they're not going to get that for a very long time. What do they have? Tulsi? She's more likely to run as a Republican at this point. It's not happening. The movement is dead in its tracks in a lot of ways, and they're like the Kyles of the world. He was just saying today, "Oh, I'm gonna make this. Don't worry, guys. I'm gonna break it down into big video, and I'm gonna explain what happened, and I'm gonna explain what we need to do going forward." And it's like, well, we all know what he's going to say in that fucking video. I could tell you right now. I could do here's what he's going to say. There's going to be no personal responsibility taken. It's all going to be scapegoating. He's going to talk about Bloody Monday. Oh, it's going to be the DNC did this. Obama did this. Not we did this. Not we alienated people. Not we failed to win over people. Not the other candidate ran a better campaign. No. We got robbed. Oh, poor us. And then they wonder why normal people can't fucking stand them. They wonder why normal people who have voted Democrat their entire life are like, they see this anti-DNC rhetoric and they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like we're like running against Republicans still, right? Like is that what we're they don't know any of this shit. They don't care about this. They've tried to portray Obama like it was a big scandal when people brought up that Bernie tried to primary Obama. But to these people, they're like, yeah, he should have. Fuck Obama. Do you think the average Democrat wanted to hear that? The average Democrat's like, what the hell are you? Fuck Obama. Are you like, do you watch Fox News? Do you watch Hannity? Did you used to watch Bill O'Reilly?
Like, and they're like, no, I watched Chapo. And they're like, no, I watched Chapo.
Oh, well, good for you.
Oh, my God.
They don't know. They probably don't know.
That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see happen to them.
I saw
Turn into Chapos.
I saw that Chapo Destiny debate. It was so awful. But I'll give my closing thought. I'm not even going to go into it. It's too much. I'll give my closing thoughts here real quick, though. So I think we covered a lot here tonight. I think it's good, that he's moved away. We can get some party unification. We have a chance to maybe beat Trump this time around. Hopefully something good comes around. I hope people he's not the best candidate, but I think he's what we have, and it's just what we have to work with. And it's either Trump or Joe Biden. Those are your only two choices. If you want to go third party, whatever, but those are your only two. Those are the only two people who are going to get into the White House. So that's all you have. I will say this though about populism. When left-wing populism normally crops up, right-wing populism crops up though, and vice versa. So like if you ever notice, like Charlie Kirk and Kyle Kalinske, they both got lots of huge support around the same time. And you'll notice that with a lot of populists is that they normally get a lot of their support around the same time. Like when left-wing ones crop up, then right-wing ones crop up. If you ever notice people like Vosh and Nick Fuentes, their numbers go up at the same time with viewership, and people spending money. So populism is pretty dangerous all around. So always do your research into a lot of these things, and a lot of political problems that we have are not as simple. They're complex. So that's all I have to say.
That's the thing. That this is the left-wing battle. I want in the upcoming years, I want to clean up the right. I want to rid the right of Tucker Carlson type rhetoric. I know that some people would say it's not worth it, it's not salvageable. Look, I don't expect the right to become perfect overnight, but I want two reasonable mainstream parties, and I don't think that's too much to ask for. But go ahead, Mike. I know that you haven't gotten to speak.
My closing thoughts. I guess I'll say this. They make a point of a lot of young people being really into Bernie and his policies. I mean, look, we are all millennials sitting here, and we are all going to be voting for Joe Biden. I mean, I guess in Kevin's case, you can't, but you'll be voting. You'll be voting in spirit.
I'm still riding with Biden.
You'll be voting for him in spirit.
Yeah.
And the point is, people's views can change over time. Like I call myself progressive apostate. A lot of people don't get it. I am an apostate from progressivism, as well as from religion. But I used to, like when I first heard about Bernie in 2016, I was only vaguely aware of the stuff surrounding his campaign, and I was kind of getting myself more into politics at the time. I was like, oh, like a lot of it sounds good. A lot of that's the thing. Like a lot of those promises sound really good on a surface level. But I feel like the more that people grow and learn and develop like more critical thinking, they can kind of read between the lines and view it with a more critical lens. And look, at the end of the day, 85% of, and this is like the statistic that I've seen, 85% of Bernie's like supporters did say that they're going to vote for Biden at the end of the day. It's that 15%, that noxious, just really gross, like 15% that don't even believe in like democracy or compromise or anything that is like a cornerstone of our politics. Today is a great day in the sense that they are really dead in the water and they have nowhere to go right now. They're floundering, and hopefully Biden getting elected will bring our country and the dialogue to like a more civil, like rational politics. And I just to end the stream on a bit of good news, I did bring up Boris Johnson, and according to like the articles that I'm reading now, obviously like it could change, but they're saying now that his condition is improving, and it looks like he's getting better. So for all of like the lefties that were basically wishing death on him, suck on that.
Man, what a bad day for them. Just everything going wrong.
Yeah.
Kevin, finish us out.
Yeah. Well, we've gone on 3.5 hours. Thank you to, we got up to about 33 people. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Thank you, of course, to Mike, Anthony, and Reese, as well as Henry and Jay earlier on for coming on the panel. Always a great night. We had a full lineup. It was an important occasion here. We've all kind of given our thoughts and everything, but to just kind of conclude this stream, the dirtbag left. They don't have a champion anymore. Not a viable, not even a conceivably viable champion for a long time, and they are triggered to a degree that if you thought they were triggered after Bernie lost to Hillary Clinton, just wait. I mean, this is just the beginning. We're gonna see over the next couple weeks as they turn their rage from the TNC and they directed at Bernie himself. They're not done with their vitriol. They're not going away from social media. They just won't have any chance at having even the slightest conceivable amount of power anymore. And so it's going to be all the more fun to watch them and flail and whine. And, today was a good day. So thanks to my friends here for being with us. Thanks to all the viewers.
Absolutely.
And we hope to see you all in the next stream. So thank you for watching.
See ya.
Hawk out.
Hawk out.
Hawks out.
Peace.
Peace, Warhawks.